Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live stream. It is Wednesday, the 21st of August, 2024. Things starting to look a little different. We're getting a little more echoey, a little darker as we start minimizing down. And then going over to Studio C, we start building back up. So we had everything really well set up here. And now to tear it down and still not quite have enough over at Studio C to start broadcasting yet. Because once we do that, we will not be able to broadcast here anymore. It's one or the other. And then when we start, we'll be starting with the basics as we're working our way back to the basics here. Start with the basics over there and build it back up again. So as you can see, changes are underway. Welcome in, everybody. And today, I wanted to demonstrate the Synology setup in a much better way than I did on part one. I was setting it up with the streaming computer, the red computer back here, and didn't realize I wasn't capturing the whole screen, but just an active window. And of course, I don't have the tablet here to monitor the chat. I don't have an ability to really see the output of this video. So what I'm hoping to do today is I brought out the Cube PC, which if you remember, it looks like this. If I turn out the lights, we have a light going around. Oh, it's messing with the camera. Look at that. If I hold real still, it'll focus. So you see the fan in the back. It's all synchronized with the lights around the cube and the base. And I just never cable managed it or finished putting the panels on it. But I did go ahead and update it, update the BIOS, all the Windows updates. Other than that, it really hasn't been used. We were testing the Highpoint RAID SSD add-in card and weren't seeing the speeds I wanted to see and just haven't had time to get back to it. So with that being said, we're going to use this as the demo PC. So let me bring the lights back up. Now, of course, we have a link, or we can add a link to this build, the Cube. This was an expensive case, although these days, it looks like it's selling for less than half of what I paid for it. What are you going to do? The price of being first, I guess. But in the meantime, it's an Intel system. It's a i5 13500 we built in there with 32 gigs of DDR4 and a 2 terabyte SK Hynix P41. Those are really fast storage drives. I just realized I don't have my glasses out here. Everything's been shuffled and moved around, but we'll get by. Slowly but surely, as I mentioned, we are making progress to the upgraded studio. We're getting there. It's a lot of studio equipment. I didn't realize how much studio equipment I really had. But when you think about it, every time I needed a tool or I needed some spare part, I'd like step a few feet away off camera and I'd have it. So that means I had a lot. So most of it I don't use 95% of the time. But when that 5% of the time happens, I'm glad to have it. So as we go into Studio C, I've got to reorganize some things and reevaluate if it's really worth having some of the tools and equipment I have, rather than just, if it's just 5% of the time, just say, oh, well, too bad. Unless I get a really good organization system. But if I were you, I wouldn't hold my breath. We're saying happy birthday to our friend Buster out there in Scotland. It's his birthday next week on the 29th. But today and throughout the rest of the week, up until the 29th and on the 29th, if you see our friend Peter Laycock in the chat room, we call him Buster. Tell him happy birthday. Every day you see him up until after the 29th of August. I want to give him a memorable birthday. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. This is a little wonky this way, but this is the old school way I used to do it here. If my eyes will work. Trevor and Darren popped into the chat there early saying hello. There's our friend Mark Baggett. And speaking of Buster, there's Buster with a 10-pound super chat. He says, good evening, Carey and Marlena. The temperature in Edinburgh is 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. Thank you, Buster. Happy birthday to Buster. Our friend Oystein joining us from Norway. Our friend Paul Gray from Australia contributes a Amazon gift card just before the show. Thank you, Paul, for all of your continued support there from down under. 3D Everything says hello. Mark Baggett and Lou Greeny say hello. And let's see what else we have in here. We've got Ron Barnish saying hello. Doman 2000. Ray Gallagher says hello. There's, of course, Mara joining us. Thomas MacT, Doman 2000. Mark Gaines in Northern Ireland says hello. Pato in OG Gaming say hello. Mark Leibowitz joins us. Mark Leibowitz says, I was starting to wonder if I was in the wrong channel. I came for a live stream and some weird song about a NAS started playing. Yeah, well, we've been running music created by Sunno AI. That's about the 24th time we've done that. So if that's the first time in the last 24 videos that we've set trailers for, I'm glad you caught up. Sunno.ai is just a fun place that you can create your own music. It can even create the lyrics for you if you tell it what you want. The style of music, you can blend different styles together. You can make up to 10 songs a day for free. They're amazingly catchy. And if you've missed any of our earlier trailers, some of them are just absolutely fantastic. I just can't believe, like, if I was a musician, I would be very concerned. Most of them are extraordinary. And the fact it makes them in like 2.5 minutes, it does the whole thing, the music, the lyrics, the bridges, the intros, the outros, the chorus, all of it. Or you can write your own lyrics and then tell it what blend of music you want. Give me Caribbean reggae mixed with country rock with a little opera. It'll blend them. Throw in a little electro swing, EDM, jazz with some industrial heavy metal. It'll mix them. It's incredibly fun to play around. Some of it comes out terrible, but usually it's really, really impressive. So we've been using that as trailers prior to the video, typically on subject of what the video will be about. And they have to be under 3 minutes long in order to be a trailer here on YouTube. And unfortunately, you can't really control how long the song is. Sunno will do up to 4 minutes for free, and you can't tell it. You might be able to if you have a paid account. And you're okay as long as you're not making money off of it. Then you need a paid account. So we don't have monetization turned on when we share the trailers. Let's see, who else do we have joining us here? Oystein in Norway says hello. Did I say that? Paul Howe says hello. There's Peter VZ. They're from the Netherlands. Ray Gallagher's giving Buster a happy birthday. That is so cool. Jonathan Fell says hello. Thomas wants to know, this is the first broadcast from Studio C. Oh, no. This is still Studio B. We're just running without the neon sign and without the regular desk. This is a different desk. We're going to move this desk over to Studio C. The wall behind me will be gray and not white. And that'll be your first clue. Also, the sound is going to be very different there as we try and work out how to get rid of the echo. I've got a little bit of echo here back, but that's because we haven't emptied it out. Once I get the carpet, the area rug out of here, and some more of the equipment, this is going to be very echoey. So I think it'll be pretty obvious. I think you'll notice when we're in Studio C. Not there yet. Maybe another week or so. Ramon Vera says hello. Welcome in, Ramon. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. There's our friend Kelly Stewart popping in and saying hello. Always good to see our friend Kelly. And let's see who else we've got in here. That computer case is quite striking, says Ryan in the chat room. I have to admit, it is pretty interesting, isn't it? Eugene Hildago says hello. Welcome into our friend Eugene. Eddie Casanova says hello. Andy Kane saying hello. Thomas says Carey is taller now. Ah, yes. You see the desk I'm using, it raises and lowers, so I can set it to the appropriate height. We were using a kitchen island that was not intended as a computer any kind of a workbench. But during the pandemic, when we moved into Studio B, I needed a workbench in order to make videos. I had a $300 budget, and every furniture store I went to didn't have anything. It never occurred to me to go to Home Depot, which is ultimately where I found this. And it is a little bit too narrow, but nonetheless, I ended up with a $900 plus tax and delivery, $1,000 kitchen island. which was on wheels. Now, if we took the wheels off of it, it probably would have dropped it a couple inches and made it a standard kitchen countertop height. But with the wheels on it, and I wanted to keep the wheels on it because I knew this location was going to be temporary from day one. It's a very heavy kitchen island, so I wanted to be able to wheel it out. And because of the wheels, it stood up another 3 inches, I'd say. And actually, it makes quite a difference when you're lifting a 40 or 50-pound computer up over your waist. And then when I'm trying to look at the top of the computer. So now this desk raises and lowers, and then I'm not sure if this will be the main work desk for Studio C, or if I have to get another one to double the width or the length. It's just too small. It's one problem or another. Or I might have a desk custom made by somebody who makes skilled enough in working with making furniture. Because, you know, when I worked at IT repair shops, all of our workbenches were custom made. They weren't store-bought. Somebody had to assemble them in order to meet the needs that we had for width and length in order to work on several computers. And remember, we're working on desktops from the 1990s, which were, you know, not uncommon to be 80 pounds and 3 feet tall. So we needed the depth and the height, as well as the ability to hang monitors on the wall and run cables. They had to be custom made. And my station was typically something I walked into. In other words, imagine a desk like this and another desk over here, and another desk over here, forming a big letter U. And then I would just walk into it and I would have different things going on all 3 desks. Sort of like those piano players or synth players in bands where they're surrounded by synth. Anyway, I don't do that much work at the same time anymore, but it sure was nice. You know, now that you don't have it, it's like, oh, that was nice to have that much room. Now, what we're doing today is I'm going to log back into the Synology. I'm going to reset it, and we're going to go through the whole setup in the sharing of the files. Only this time, I'm going to connect through this computer. We're going to screen capture this computer over to the streamer so you can see the entire desktop and every step without me interfering potentially with the stream. The streaming computer really shouldn't be used during a live stream other than to switch input sources. It's incredibly easy to cut my audio out or cut my video out or lose my connection by clicking the wrong button or leaning on the desk and hitting a key. So this is really the way I should have done it to begin with. I thought I was being more efficient. I thought I was being smarter, but no, I wasn't. I made it worse. So lesson learned. Now I remember why I don't do it that way. Sometimes I need these reminders. So welcome into everybody, and good to see everyone in here. Oh, there's Gregory Howard. Gregory says down and out to up and in to the new place. Hi, everyone in chat. Carrie Marlena. Happy birthday, Buster, he says. You know, it's funny. I got a message from Gregory Howard the other day. And what is hilarious, well, look at this. We got a happy birthday card from Peter Laycock. Amazon gift card. Thank you so much, Buster. You're so generous. He's such a cool dude. All right, he's very friendly. He's an incredible human being, and I can't say enough good things about him. Gregory Howard is another wonderful, amazing human being, as well as all of you, really. But I want to share with you what Gregory sent to me, and I'm going to have to mute the audio. He's got music in it, which YouTube likes messing with me when it comes to any music, even when it's public, you know, royalty-free. YouTube is so unpredictable, so it doesn't matter. You don't need the audio. Now, you guys remember the streaming computer, right? Well, Greg apparently was inspired by that, and he replicated it. That's not my streaming computer. It looks just like it, doesn't it? He's got all the same boxes. The only thing he did differently was the CPU. I think he went with a 7900 and we went with a 7950, if I recall. But he built it like part for part. So I guess if I ever need another one, I just call him up. Hey, build me one of these. Let him do the work. Nice choice of parts. Well, it just goes to show you what we do here is real. You can follow along with us and buy the same parts we buy. Build it the same way we build it, using the same steps that we do. Follow it exactly. You will get the exact same results every time. The minute you venture out on your own, I'm not saying you won't be successful. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you're comparing what you did to what I did, and what you did isn't working, it's because you didn't follow it exactly the way I showed it. So if you want to do it differently, you may not get the same results. But if you do follow along, if you're uncertain, you don't have to know anything other than these are the links to the parts. You buy them, you put them together in the same way we show on the channel, and you'll end up with the same computer at the end of the video. So that's how that works. I don't know that Gregory followed my steps, but he definitely followed my part list. And of course, depending on your level of experience, Gregory's built computers before. So, you may not need to follow me step by step, but it works and it looks incredible. And just as a reminder, if I slide this table back, let's go this way for a second. Doesn't that look familiar? Here we go. Yeah, he built that. Oh, let me just say, he built one just like it. All right, let's move it back. I have an area rug down here that is difficult. That ought to be good. Right about. Let's see. This side came out a little bit, didn't it? Let's bring this back. Okay. Now, in order to hook this computer to the Synology, I have to power the Synology on, and I've got to run a network cable from that to a network switch, and then from the network switch to the PC. Did I not mute my phone? What's going on? Oh, I'm getting a delivery. I see. Oh, that's not a delivery. That's the pool guy. All right, so that's probably going to beep a few times as the pool guy needs to go back and forth to service the pool. All right, we're going to ignore the beeping. If you're hearing the beeping, it's the proximity alarms. In any event, thank you, Peter VZ, joining us with a €1 super chat. Right on. Thank you. Oystein says that looks like an amazing PC build. Yeah, well, we built the streaming computer here on the channel, if you've missed it. Lou Greenia says his wife changed his RGB color scheme on the Project Zero build and forbid me to change it. Yeah, I know what that's like. Okay, so let's get to hooking everything up. Like I said, the first thing is we've got to give the Synology power. So we'll plug this in just with a standard PC cable, PC power cable. And I'll just set it back here to get it out of the view. And we'll turn that on. Now the blue light's going to blink, and that's going to initialize, and it's going to take about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to boot. That's normal and to be expected. And then I've got the switch plugged in, but nothing's plugged into the switch. So what we need to do is take two short network cables, and we'll plug one into the switch here and the other network cable to the switch. So these will be on their own little network here. Now, at home, you would just plug this into the back of your router or hook them up wirelessly. The Synology you can't hook up wirelessly, but we could be wireless up here if we wanted to be. Now, it doesn't matter which plug we use on the switch. I'm just going to start over here, closest to the Synology. And I've got two different color cables, so I can tell them apart. This one is green, and this one is closest to the computer. So in order to avoid any tangling, and you see these are relatively short cables, also for the same purpose, to avoid tangling. Let's see. plug that in. Now, what this PC was plugged into, whoopsie, I unplugged the switch. Let me plug the switch back in there. Okay. So what the mini PC was plugged into was the network here. Now we can set this up on the network here, or we can just leave these connected alone and put our own IP addresses on there. But for the sake of making life easier, I'm going to just plug this in all the way at the end. Usually that's where you would plug a switch to another switch, or router is the last one. Modern switches don't really care. This switch is a 2.5 gig switch. So in theory, these should both be operating at 2.5 gig speed when they're hardwired. If it's wireless, whatever the speed of the wireless is will limit how fast data can travel to or from the wireless device. Regardless of how fast what you're transferring data to or from the device that's sending it or receiving it, if it's wireless, will be the bottleneck. So we could have this be 100 million gigabits per second, have this wireless on 802.11b, we're going to be crawling. And this thing will barely be used. It'll be yawning. So everything has to be at the same speed, wired, if you want to see those kind of data transfer speeds in sending or receiving large files, or just a large bulk of files. Now, with these two items plugged in, I just heard the Synology beep that tells me it initialized. We're going to go over to our video capture card and get to the desktop on this. So that means I'm going to use this keyboard and mouse to turn on and activate the screen capture on the capture card. And then this keyboard and mouse is hooked up to the, I don't want to mix these up, so let's see how I do here. Let's go over to not window capture, HDMI input is what I want. And did I plug the HDMI input in? No, I probably should do that. So this cable down here, well, thankfully I didn't pack it. This is our HDMI input cable, I think. I think it is. Let's find out. We have about a third of a studio here that we're working with, so bear with me as I try and, I thought I left enough extra stuff that I could keep going. We're trying. Let's go to HDMI input. Does that work? That is not working. Is it the close-up camera I plugged into? Yes. All right, that'll work. We'll use the close-up camera input. Now, I'm going to go full screen projector on this so I can see. I'm going to set this keyboard and mouse away from me so I'm less likely to accidentally press them. Now, if you go back and you watch the video on the cube build, you'll see this is basically the same condition we left it in. Icons haven't moved. Let me get that sorted here because it's bothering my OCD. We'll do it twice because I like it the other way around. There we go. And first thing we want to do is find the Synology. So we're going to just open a browser. And we'll type in find.synology.com. Now you can do this without having a Synology account. It's just looking on your local network for a MAC address that matches Synology. And you know what? I never plugged the Synology. Let me go back here for a second and show you what's wrong. Sometimes when I try and move too quickly, I do the introduction, I say hello to everybody, and then I'm like, oh geez, I better start catching up for getting some work done. I didn't have the HDMI cable plugged in here, and I never finished plugging the network cable in over here. We absolutely have to do that. So we'll just grab this green wire, and I'll just run it around the table so you don't have to look at it. Now the Synology has two 1 gig ports, okay? That's the downside, I suppose you could say, of Synology is that, well, all the other competitors like QNAP and TerraMaster or ASUS are offering 2.5 gig NASs in this entry level or a little above entry level NAS marketplace. Synology is yet to do that. and I don't know why. But what Synology does offer on the 923 Plus and why we're looking at it, because you might say, this looks just like the 918. You've already shown us the 918. This looks exactly the same. It does. But it has an upgrade port. So for $100, you can buy this right here. And this is a little network adapter card that pops in there that'll run 10 gig per second or 5 or 2 point, anything less, 10 or less. Okay, so if I take a 10 gig network card and plug it into a 2.5 gig switch, it's only going to run at 2.5 gig, whatever the slowest point is. But if I got a 10 gig card in here and I have a 10 gig switch and I have a 10 gig card in here, now I'm moving data 9 to 10 times faster than at 1 gig. Now, that may not matter to a lot of people, but if you're moving large files often and you don't want to wait for it, you're tired of waiting, and you're doing it all the time, this could be a beneficial upgrade. And 10 gig is finally becoming affordable. So I've never used 10 gig in my life, so I'm looking forward to testing it in part 3 of this video. It was supposed to happen in part 2, and then I realized I screwed the video up, and I gotta set it up again. So, look, it is what it is, but I want to make sure that I share with you all the details. So if you want to follow along, you could at the very least set up your own home network share. Now, when it comes to setting up your own media servers, your own cloud servers, your own data, you can do your own data cloud. You can do all of that with the Synology and more. And there's plenty of YouTube channels that get into the details, like Space Rex, like Tyrannosaurus Rex, and NAS Compares are 2 excellent YouTube channels I highly recommend if you really want to deep dive into these. They also cover some of the simple stuff, but their videos, the simple stuff is maybe 10% of their content, and 90% of their content is more of a deep dive. So check them out if you want more information on the NAS. I'm just here to make an introduction and show you the basics. Now, for the record, I don't use a NAS for anything other than local file storage. We do not put on remote access to the NAS. There's no outside access for security reasons. Nobody knows the password but me and the boss of it, maybe the administrator of the company. And there's a third rule. It's locked up. The employees cannot access it, and only the administrator is allowed. If I'm not there, then the administrator says, hey, we're having a problem accessing our NAS. She knows how to turn it off and turn it back on again, and the basics. And then beyond that, I need to schedule an appointment to come out and look at it. These things are rock solid. Now, I realize that there's lots of ways that you can create a network attached storage device. If you have an old PC laying around, you can use OVM, you can use TrueNAS, you can use, there's so many, but that's more home lab hobbyist stuff. We wouldn't use one of those in a for-profit business where security and uptime are absolutely critical. The amount it's going to cost just to set it up and configure it is great. First of all, it won't cost anything if you're at home playing. But when it comes to a work environment, I need a dedicated solution that has its own operating system, its own support, and has a smaller footprint and runs on less power with swappable hard drives without having to use a screwdriver. So if you see me using QNAP or Synology or TerraMaster in the business place that I support, these drives must be hot swappable. We're not converting old desktops to NASs. That is a home lab. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, that's not what my business does. I wouldn't make any money at that. It would just eat me up alive in labor cost. So for home users that want to play, there are absolutely free operating systems that you could use to take an old Windows 10 computer when it becomes obsolete, throw multiple drives in it, or if you want to, leave one drive in it, call it your NAS. On the other hand, you could also just use the USB port on the back of your router. If you're one of those people, you probably have a pretty nice router, and just plug a drive into it, and there's your NAS. It's a way easier, simpler, less power, less footprint, no keyboard or mouse or monitor needed. But to each their own. If you're interested in doing your own home lab and that's your thing, this is not what this channel does. We're interested in setting up data solutions that are reliable, affordable, practical, and above all, very easy to set up. We don't want, look, here in America, labor costs are outrageous. It doesn't make any sense to use a free PC to convert it into a NAS and pay $3,500 in labor for the person to get all the details set up for you, and then the maintenance, the updates, and the electric bill. And then anytime maintenance is done, it's going to be more difficult unless they bought a special case that has removable drives. And then you've already far exceeded one of these pre-builts. It just doesn't make any practical, logical sense. For fun, as a hobby, knock yourself out. But I just don't have time. So there are other YouTube channels that will show you that. And just so you know, that is an option. If you want to go down that road, you'll go without me, because I like to get on with the job and help the next person. I don't want one person monopolizing all my time. But anyway, let's keep going. Now, we've got this plugged into the network. We've got this plugged into the network. Now let me switch over and start again. These videos are live and unscripted. So what you're seeing is real work being done in real time while I am simultaneously talking to you. I'm standing and I'm not sitting because I am teaching. I am a teacher. I don't usually see teachers sitting down. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that the entire video, I am standing up. There's a reason for that. I'm teaching. All right, let's go back over to our desktop over here. Okay. So yes, it wouldn't have found it if we didn't plug it into the network. So let's refresh, try that again. Now there's multiple ways to find your Synology. There's even a downloadable rather utility. It's a pretty small utility that's available at Synology support that I guarantee will find it unless it's broken or not turned on. So let's start over again. We bring up the browser. I'm going to type in find.synology.com. You see it changes it to finds. I don't know when that happened, but it automatically changes. Now, what's interesting is it's still not finding it. Now, that to me is quite interesting because it should have found it. So the benefit that it didn't find it is that right here it says you can check the connectivity, make sure everything's plugged in, right? Everything is plugged in. See the light blinking, everything's fine. Then it says if you still can't find it, download the Synology Assistant. So let's do that. It's a small program. That's the operating system. This is not what you want. You want the assistant. Update modules. Why did it take us to this page? Download center, NAS 218. Well, we don't have a NAS 2. We have a 923 plus. 1 bay, 2 bay. This is how you find. Oh, we could just type in 923 plus. There it is. Let that do what it needs to do, and it should come up. Desktop utilities, Synology Assistant. You see where I found desktop utilities, right? We'll go to Synology Assistant and download that. The Windows executable is what we want, but if you're running Mac or Ubuntu, there's this 32-bit, 64-bit download for Linux compatibility. And then we're going to come over here, click on that. Where'd it go? It's in our downloads folder. Oh, it was still confirming the download. I was too anxious. You notice there's no extension on here, right? You see that broken icon. So for whatever reason, it didn't find it. So I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to find Synology.com. Still not finding it. Go to the Synology Assistant. Now, really, we just need desktop utilities. It doesn't matter. We're still going to get the same Synology Assistant. Download it. And this time, I guess I'll wait for the download to say it's done. I'm not used to this like in Google Chrome, but there it is. Now it finished. Now we'll open the file. Click yes. Click OK. Click next. Agree to the license agreement. Agree to the installation area. And it's already done. You just hit install. You might get some firewall permissions, which may be why we didn't see it. We might have firewall permissions enabled by default here on Windows 11. We're going to allow public and private network access to this app. That'll bypass the firewall settings for this app only. And it should find it right here in this list, in theory. No Synology server was found on the local network. Let's search again. Sometimes setting up your Synology the first time can be a little challenging. However, I know it's there, I know it's plugged in, and sometimes it takes a minute for things to initialize, like when we install new software or we plug in a network cable. I'm often jumping right on before giving it a chance to handshake and initialize. You can see now it's found it in the IP address that's been assigned to it. We can double click on that, and it's going to open the sign-in page. So I don't remember, did I put in Carey? Yeah, I guess I remembered it correctly. So if we want to reset this back to factory settings, we can simply go to Control Panel. We can go to Update and Restore, System Reset, Erase all data. You can restore your Synology NAS to the original manufacturer out of the box when it was brand new settings. All user data stored on the drives will be erased, and the entire system will be restored to default. That's what we want. I understand all the data is going to be gone. And there's a time there for you to really think about what you're about to do. Erase it. We have to enter the password just to make sure that it's really us that wants to do this and not a hacker. Synology NAS is restarting. After restarting, use the Web Assistant or Synology Assistant to search for and reconnect to the Synology NAS. It's that simple. And what that does is it's going to put us back, as I mentioned, back to out of box. So if you were going to sell this to somebody or you were going to give it away and you wanted to make sure all your data was off of it, you have one of two ways. You reset it this way, or you take your drives out, you keep the drives, you give them the NAS and let them put their own drives in it, or you put a different set of drives in it. Now, you will not be able to read those drives without another Synology NAS, but assuming you've backed everything up or there's nothing you want on there, right? So as we wait for this, let me go back over to camera one. And what I can do is put myself in a corner. We can keep an eye on both. Just have to make sure I select the right source on OBS before. Now, normally when the Synology shuts down or starts up or restarts, it will typically beep, just one long beep. So I'm kind of waiting to hear that because I can't see the front of it of what it's doing. And this browser page will likely not update itself because it's possible our IP address will change. And since the web page we're looking at is a local area network IP, there was the beep. That means it's not internet routable, meaning you could copy that all day long. You're not getting here. That's a commonly used IP address in literally every network. So potentially. So that means it's non-routable. It has to go through a router. So the IP address of the router or the IP address of the modem is really what you need if you were wanting to hack me. So just so you know, you don't have to worry about anybody looking over your shoulder on stuff like this. And we have all outside access turned off anyway. All right, let's take a look in the chat room. I did hear this beep, so we're going to check in on it here in a second. Dom Parada joins us, says hello. Welcome in, Dom. James Goodrum joins us from Texas. There's Randy Wablowski. Yeah, Gregory Howard said when he built that, it was a 7800 3D processor. and he used a Game Max 850 watt power supply. That was the only difference between his build and our streamer. I imagine you don't have a 4-port Magewell capture card in it. Way overkill. All right, so let me go back. Let's turn off camera 1 here for a second so you can get full screen. And what I think has happened is I believe our NAS has reset itself. So we have to start over. We're going to close this out. We're going to close this out. Now, just out of curiosity, if I bring up and I type in find, I don't have to type the whole thing anymore now that it's buffered it. I'm just curious if it finds it after the reset and after the firewall changes that the Synology Assistant made. Remember, without those firewall changes, this didn't work. So now, without using the assistant, just using our browser, it finds it, and guess what? It's still using the same IP address, and we'll hit connect. You gotta agree to this license agreement. What's it doing? Okay, so we're going through a first-time setup. Welcome to the Synology DS923. Let's set it up now. Okay, install. Automatically downloading the latest DiskStation Manager. This is called a Synology DiskStation. Yes, I want that set. Next. All data will be deleted on drives 1, 2, 3, and 4. I understand. Continue. To confirm, please type your product model in the field below. Your product model is DS923 Plus. So we'll type in DS923 Plus and hit delete. Is that case sensitive? Might be. Let's try capital DS923 Plus. They aren't screwing around. The box isn't red anymore. Yeah, case sensitive, just like all passwords are. So here we go. We're setting this up for the very first time all over again. The only part we're not redoing is the installation of the drives themselves. Now you'll see just installing the DiskStation Manager operating system doesn't take very long at all. Of course, depending on the speed of your internet connection, it could go faster, it could go slower, and depending on the model of NAS, how much RAM and processor you have, could be faster, could be slower, but it's the same process. The worst thing you can do is turn the computer off right now, or turn the NAS off. It doesn't matter if we turn the computer off. The NAS is, we're looking into a window of the NAS as its own little mini PC, if you will, and we're using the browser as our monitor. So we can shut the browser down, we can reboot the computer. That has no impact on the NAS itself. We do not want to power off the NAS while it's installing the operating system. That kind of messes with things. So not that it's not recoverable, it's just a pain in the butt. Just let it work, let it do what it needs to do. I guess I can put camera 1 back. Here I am. And let's see what's going on in the chat room while we wait. Gregory Howard says the computer he built is very usable. I bet. Bet it is. There's Jose Lopez joining us. Welcome in, Jose. Darren Gilholm says hello from the UK. Arnold wants to know, can the NAS function with Linux? I don't want to guess. So the NAS doesn't run on Windows. The NAS runs on a software created by Synology. The same is true with QNAP. QNAP has their own operating system. ASUS Store has their own operating system. TerraMaster has the TerraMaster OS, which they just recently did a big update on. These are built on a Linux platform, but they're not Linux in the sense that they're going to run on anything else. So essentially, with TerraMaster, you can still run TrueNAS, and it's programmable in that way if you wanted to, make your life difficult. But Synology and QNAP and ASUS Store and TerraMaster, they have their own proprietary operating system that only runs with their hardware. And in most cases, you can't change it. But in TerraMaster's case, you could change it to some other open source. Now, how you connect to the NAS is through any internet connected device. So basically, it doesn't give a rat's behind if you're on a phone, a tablet, a Mac, a PC. It doesn't matter if you're on a laptop. It doesn't matter if you're on Windows XP. It doesn't care, other than you've got to be able to connect to the internet. And as long as you can connect to the internet, you can connect to the NAS. So any internet connected device, and let me be very clear, any internet connected device anywhere on the entire planet can or has the ability to connect to any other internet connected device anywhere in the planet. Can you understand why security is such a concern? When you plug into the internet, you are plugging into the biggest wired or wireless network the world has ever seen in the entirety of mankind's existence. Each person on this planet has the ability to connect to any other person or company or entity also connected at the same time. So without firewalls and security, nothing stops them from getting into your stuff. And it doesn't matter if they're using 20-year-old hardware or the latest and greatest. And they can just hack on you all day, so long as you are powered on and connected to the internet. That's why we take security so seriously here. If you're running a business, we'll just look with this. I don't need to talk any further than CrowdStrike. And if you don't know about CrowdStrike, Google it. There's our beep. Hopefully the microphone picked it up. And it's just finishing our initial setup for the operating system. Now, in theory, our drive should already be reset. So I will go back and set those up and show you again how that's done. And then we can share them over here. We can set up, we have 4 8-terabyte drives. That's going to give us a total of 8, 16, 24, 32 terabytes. But 1/4 of each drive will contain the data from the other 3 redundantly. So if any of the 4 die, if any single drive of the 4 in here fail, the other 3 can still replace the data that was on that drive together. Doesn't matter which one fails. It's a mathematical way of creating a polarity and redundancy in the system that allows for one failure. Aside from you getting an alert or a red light that your drive failed, the NAS still runs exactly the same. But if you don't replace that drive before the next drive fails, your data's gone. And I hope you made a backup, because this is not a backup. This is a large storage device. And you're much better off, in my opinion, setting up something like this than putting large drives in your computer. Put your large drives in this, and then access them just like they were installed in the computer, no differently, other than the network speed. That's it. It's the only difference. So we're going to demonstrate that today and why it makes so much sense. Let's complete our setup here. So I'll turn off camera 1 so you can see better. And we'll go over to, okay, we're at DSM 7.2. This is the operating system. So we're going to give this a name, and we're going to just call it server, just for the heck of it. Administrator account will be Carey, and we'll put the same password in that we did before, which it doesn't like, but it'll accept it. Next. Oh, it didn't match. I hate when that happens. Oh, I can see I'm 1 character short. Well, that means I've added a character up here. What is going on? Okay, those line up now. Next. Happens to everybody. Don't worry about it. All right, select an update option. Automatically install important updates as defaulted. automatically install any latest updates. Yes, I want that one. Create a Synology account. I do not want to do that. So we're going to skip this. And I don't do this in real life. I don't do this for my clients. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to enhance our security. So by not having a Synology account, which enables easier access for you, in theory, if it's making it easier on you, it's making it easier on a thief. Device analytics, you can send any crash reports automatically and supposedly, which I believe to be totally anonymous, to the developers, to the Synology developers, so they can see if a bunch of people are all starting to have the same crash, and they can work on it before people start complaining about it. They'll be aware of it first. You may choose to turn that on if you want to, or you may choose not to report crashes. So we're just going to leave it off for now. Up to you, right? If you want to help in the development. Now, there is some options for installing the Drive server, the Office program, and the Photo server. I don't use any of those in the real world, so I'm going to say no thanks. There's an extended warranty option, which I'm going to say no thanks on. And then two-factor authentication when logging in, which for our demonstration, I'm going to say no thanks, but it's all about security. Then there's multi-factor authentication, which I don't want to do that either. So for right now, we're just going to keep it simple. Now we need to create a storage pool and a storage volume. This gets a little confusing, but let's just follow along. We're going to create now, start to create storage pools and volumes. Before data can be stored on your Synology NAS, please create at least one volume. We're going to just create one volume. We're going to use all the space we have available. You don't have to. You can partition it out into different, but I wouldn't. I would just use folders and lock down each folder as though it were a partition. It just makes more sense. Partitions are a thing we used to have to do in the 90s and the 80s. There's no reason to do that anymore other than people refuse to learn something new. They know how to do it. That's what they're comfortable with, and they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. That's fine. But for the rest of us, let's move on with modern technology. One big partition's all we want. We're going to do a Synology hybrid RAID, SHR. There's different versions of standard RAID. We're not going to get into all that. JBOD means just a bunch of disks, meaning the disks are not the same manufacturer or size. It's a mess. I wouldn't use JBOD. I want SHR, which is the default. Okay, you need a minimum one drive. But if you want at least one drive to be able to fail without losing everything, you need a minimum of 2 drives. That's common sense, right? If you only have one drive and it fails, anyway, you can't change a spare tire if you don't have a spare tire. Okay, so, sorry, you can't change a flat tire if you don't have a spare tire. Let's see, storage pool description is optional. We're going to leave that blank and hit next. Which drives do we want? We want all of them, so we'll click the top box. Whoops, there we go. These are all the MAT3108T, means 8 terabyte. These are made by Synology. They're built specifically for Synology NASs by Synology. I believe these are all certified drives, warranted through Synology. And you will pay more for these drives, but you will be less likely to have any downtime with them. And if any downtime should occur, you would deal with one company only, Synology. It's not like if you put Western Digital or Seagate drives in there and you call Synology that you're having a problem. Synology is going to say, potentially, your problem is your drives. Don't talk to us about it. We didn't make them. So then you got to go to Western Digital or Seagate, and they're going to point fingers. If you simply stick with one manufacturer on the support side of things, things get easier and also less likely. In any event, these drives are available on Amazon. We'll talk a little bit more about these drives later and why they're different from Western Digital or Seagate. There is, in some ways, superiority, and in some other ways, inferiority, depending on your perspective and your values and what's important to you. So let's go ahead and we've selected all the drives. We hit next. Did I miss a screen? Hold on. No? Okay, next. Storage pool 1 will be a total of 22 gigabytes. So we've got, 22 terabytes is right. 22,000 gigabytes is 22 terabytes. So of all those drives that we've combined, Do we want to split them into different partitions? How big do we want storage pool 1 to be? The maximum, just one big partition. There is another option for volume description. Don't need to fill that in if you don't want to. Hit next. Now it wants to know what operating system to use. Do we want to use the Butterfuss or BTRFS, the B-tree file system, which is way, way more optimized, advanced, more efficient, and less likely to corrupt data than the old ancient ext4 from Linux. So if you want to use ext4 and live in 1997, have at it. Me, I won't even use a NAS that doesn't support Butterfuss. I've got to have the B-tree file system or I'm not going to bother. The data is absolutely critical on here for my clients, and sticking with some old outdated technology is not the way forward for my business. So I'm going to hit next, stick with that default. Now, do we want to turn on encryption? Depending on the data and any sort of regulations that industry may be in for the client you're servicing, you might have to. I don't want to because it slows everything down, and we're just going to leave that off, stick with the defaults and hit next. So it's giving us a summary, right? You've selected Synology Hybrid RAID on the SATA hard drives that are installed using drives 1, 2, 3, and 4, totaling 22,325 gigabyte or 22 terabytes. You're allocated all of that space in the volume, right? This is the storage pool, and this is the volume. The volume's one giant volume, and the volume file system is BTRFS. We hit apply. It tells us we're going to lose everything on the drives. We already lost everything on the drives 4 times in this process. And we click OK, and then it goes and creates that storage pool and that volume together. All right, so we let that configure. Now, when it verifies your storage pool, that may take 20 hours or more, depending on the size and speed of the installed drives. But here's the thing. You can still continue to use the Synology NAS as though this has already happened. It's just going to run in the background. And this is probably going to take about, it says a day and 23 hours. But no, in reality, it'll take about 19, 20 hours, I would guess. So the way I can tell it's done, let me go back over here to camera 1 for a second, and I'll show you something. Let me show you something. If we look at, come on now. If you look at the lights, let me turn these lights off so you can see better. We're dealing with a little bit of focus issue. Okay, so if you look at, come on, camera. You see these lights right here on the side that are blinking? That's drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, drive 4. That tells you they're reading or writing data. It's going to do this for the next 18 to 20 hours. So I don't have to watch this. I can go to bed, wake up in the morning. If these lights are, where's my lights? If these lights are still blinking, it's still verifying our storage pool. Just leave. I can continue to use this. I don't have to wait. I can start using this now. I just don't want to power it off while this is happening. So we let this run. And let's say I wake up in the morning and all these lights are out and all I see is that one light. I can tell you the optimization's done. You don't have to log in and check. You can just, that's pretty much true on every NAS. If one of the drives should fail, one of those lights is going to turn red on the drive number that failed, and you can eject the failed drive while the unit is running, not during this point, obviously, but when it's under normal operation, the drives are numbered. The light over here tells you which drive has failed. You pop the drive out, you replace it with another identical drive. It's always good to have a spare laying around. NAS continues to operate. Nobody knows it's happened but the administrator. There's no data loss, everything still works. You pop your new drive in, you log into the Synology DSM and you say, well, it'll tell you, it looks like you installed a new drive. Do you want to rebuild it? You say yes, and then it does this whole process basically. The lights are going to blink for about 20 hours or whatever, and when it's done, everything's recovered. And say you're in an office and you have multiple employees that are accessing Word, Excel, PDFs, all kinds of documents. They won't even know what happened. But if the tech doesn't acknowledge it and doesn't replace that drive before the next drive dies, then you lose everything. Everything's gone. You can no longer rebuild it. Now, there is a way to use 2 drives as a spare, but you're going to lose a lot of your storage space. It makes more sense when you have 6 or more drives to do something like that. Then the storage space you lose isn't such a big deal. But the whole reason we do this is to get that storage space, right? Because we can get a 4 terabyte NVMe drive, right? That's nothing. This is, 8 times that. So, and for less cost. At the end of the day, if we wanted 24 terabytes worth of NVMe storage, it'd be setting us back somewhere over $1,000, maybe $1,500 just for the drives. So they do make NASs that will take those, by the way, and we'll be reviewing those in the coming days or weeks ahead. Now, where was I? Let's go back to our, oh, hold on. Before I go to that, let me just look in the chat room and see if I've missed any comments or questions before I get too far ahead. There's Mike's unboxing, reviews, and how to. Mike, over at his YouTube channel, which, by the way, excellent YouTube channel, taught me something new the other day. And I hope he sees this as a compliment and not theft. But I'd like to share it with you. We're going to go back over to this desktop real quick, and I'm going to show you what Mike showed me. Well, Mike showed his audience, part of his audience. But check this out. Now, while this is doing what it's doing, we're just going to take a little detour here. You know how you can right-click on, let's just minimize this. You know how you can right-click on your desktop and you have these options, right? And something's locked up, so you press Control-Alt-Delete, and you want to end that task. Now, first of all, if you're dealing with this on a regular basis, there's something wrong, okay? But in the meantime, what Mike showed is if you go to your settings and we go to, let's see, trying to remember. Personalization. No, system. You go under system and you go under, was it optional? No, optional features? No. I only did this once. I'm trying to remember it. Mike might be shouting at me in the chat room. Carey, it's over there. For developers. So under system and then for developers, there's an option here to enable end task in the taskbar by right click. Just flip that to on, okay? And close this. So now if we right click, where is it? Here. Right click on the taskbar. Task manager. That end task was supposed to, maybe I have to click on maybe right click on that. There it is. So if the program that's not responding, you right click on that program in your system tray. And instead of using Control-Alt-Delete and then looking through your list to find it, this just adds it right to your context, right-click context submenu. I had no idea. So a shout out and a thank you to Mike's Unboxing, and be sure and check out his channel. We'll be sure to add a link to it. It's got an excellent how-to review. It's very similar to my channel, very similar, only his is way more professional, more polished, including his head. Okay, now he hates me? Oh, come on. We kid. I'm entirely short. Go ahead, return the favor. I'm okay with it. Great guy. Check out his channel. I think you'll like it. Mike says it's almost 10 p.m. there in England. Mike's Unboxing says the end task shortcut is pretty neat. Glad you liked it. Yeah, I wonder how long it's been there. Mike takes a bow, and he got a ha-ha. Good, so he got the joke. Some people are like, how dare you? How dare you have a sense of humor? All right. Not him. We're good. Let me look up in the chat one more time just to see if there's anything else. Lawn dog's really digging the cube. Yeah, just wait till I put the rest of the glass on it. Wait till I finish it. It'll happen any day now. You know, when customers don't order computers, when these are just channel projects, a lot of times they sit because they're higher priority items like new content to make, or customers that need help. Stuff like this is it's off to the side. And then I kind of forget about it. So when there is some downtime, it doesn't occur to me, I should probably finish that. But today I had a good reason to bring it out. And it needed updates. It needed a BIOS update. It had a bunch of, I think it needed 23H2 on it. That's how long it's been since I turned it on. I got to do the cable management and put the glass, and I just haven't. Once I do that, it's just going to go back in the corner. So what's the point? Anyway, that's how it happens over here. Essential working too hard, saying hello. Jonesot says QNAP gives you 8 camera licenses. Synology only gives you 1. So if you want to use this as a video surveillance recorder, you need camera licenses. That's pretty industry standard. And every, you know, whether it's TerraMaster, QNAP, SUSE-Store, or Synology, you'll get at least 1 license for free, and the others you have to pay for. Either way, in the long run, for video surveillance, you can pay a company to store your videos in their cloud, or you can do it yourself and pay for the license, which is way, way cheaper. Now, whether or not you need just 1 license or you need 100, many would argue that no matter how many you get for free, it's not enough. It depends on the NAS you buy. If the NAS you're buying is intended for home users, you're not going to get 100 video licenses. It doesn't make any sense, right? And so one person who's in a house who has 4 cameras might go, oh, the QNAP's better because you get 6, right? But somebody else who's in an office building with 27 cameras goes, it's no difference. In fact, the licenses often become cheaper the more you buy them. And they'll actually say theirs is a better value. So always understand that the perspective and needs and values of an individual are never, ever going to be exactly identical as anybody else's. So because you believe something is superior, it's just because of how you're choosing to look at it. And to suggest that that is objective, it isn't. It's very subjective, meaning I might serve you a plate of couscous and you might look at that and say I've served you a plate of dog food if you don't like that. So to each his own, but do please have respect for the fact that what your needs are likely not shared by others exactly. So, and if you're watching and you see comments that are making bold statements as though they're fact, that's opinion. That's someone's personal preference. Whether or not that makes something better or worse is entirely for you to decide. Because remember, there's pricing involved and there's other technicalities involved. And it's interesting how people choose to see what they want to see. There's always another side to the coin. So if all you're doing is looking at one side and ignoring the back of it, it doesn't mean the back doesn't exist. All right, so enough of that. Let's go back and finish setting up, where am I? Let's finish setting up the NAS. Like I said, you can see the lights, they're blinking, and they're gonna continue to do that until the storage pool volume is checked, because it's a brand new volume, and the system wants to make sure there's no bad sectors, that the drives aren't gonna, have any sort of failure, that everything works the way it's supposed to. It's like a double check. This is only done during the initial setup. Afterwards, you would want to do something called drive scrubbing. You do that about every 6 months to every year. And what that does is it cleans up any data corruption and corrects it before it becomes a problem. It's not actually scrubbing in the sense of a brush, like a toothbrush scrubbing your teeth. What it's doing is it's scrubbing the data, meaning when I'm editing a video, or any editor, video editor, and we're running through the video, we're dragging and we're watching the video really fast, trying to get to a certain point to look for things. We're scrolling it forward, we're scrolling it backward. We see the video moving. Back in the day, we had a dial we spun, and when we spun the dial, the video moved one way, and when we spun it, this is called video scrubbing. We're not cleaning anything. We are scrubbing through the video to find the part we're looking for as quickly as possible. Scrubbing on a NAS, essentially in plain language, means it's going to check all the bits on the drives and make sure that they correlate with the mathematical parity that it has come up with. And if it doesn't, it means that data is corrupted, and it can repair it with the parity data. Well, you don't even have any idea this is going on. That should be done at least once a year, and it can take a while, take as long as this is taking. However, you can schedule it and say, like in my case, for my clients, I schedule this every month. That's way overkill, but that's the kind of guy I am. I want to know that data is critical, and I want to know, is the data okay? I want to know every month, even though it's unnecessary for the most part. I'm a better safe than sorry kind of person. I set it to run at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it'll email me when it's done. I even forget I've set it. I just get this random email that pops up once a month that says, this is from server, or whatever I've named it, right? Each one has a unique name, so I can tell my clients apart. Data scrubbing is complete, no errors found. Perfect. I don't have to manually go in and do it. I just have to babysit it. And if I forget, it reminds me by sending me the email, gives me the results of the test. So we can do that with emptying the recycle bin. I've seen customers not empty the recycle bin, and they run out of space. They're like, I've only got 1 terabyte on my 24 terabyte drive. My NAS, where did my space go? Let's take a look. You log in and see they never emptied the recycle bin. That is another task you have to manually set if you enable the recycle bin. And I usually have that task run once a month. Anything that's been in there for 30 days or longer, take it out, free that space up. If you don't do that over the years, this will get bloated and it won't have any space and it won't work. And in the case of my customer's tech, the tech told him, you need to buy a new NAS. Something wrong with this one. The tech just didn't know what he was doing. Okay, go back to Mike's Unboxing says Synology Surveillance Station includes 2, not 1, but 2 licenses as standard. Okay, so let's go back over to the desktop. Let's pick up where we left off here. Screen on my side. Here we go. So back over to our browser. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Bad Carey. Okay, back over to the browser. Because we have not done anything in a while, it automatically signs us out for security. It's like a timeout period. So we have to log in again. And I should be able to just use my saved credentials. And if you notice up here, we have notification settings, and it usually tells us what's going on. We can see healthy status here. We can see our CPU and RAM resources. Now, this is all stock from Synology. We've not modified the amount of RAM or anything like that. We've not put any NVMe drives in it for caching because we'll be using it for large video files we create here on YouTube. This stream is being recorded locally. So this file, when we're done with today, will probably be around 10 gigs. And so we need to move that off the drive of the streaming computer or we run out of drive space, which has happened to us during a live stream. So I don't want that to happen again. I don't mind making mistakes. I just don't want to make the same mistake twice. So how are we doing? One of the things that I think should be on this desktop by default is something called the Storage Manager. The Package Manager has all of the software. Now, I don't use any of it other than what's required and installed by default. So anything installed, I did not install. That's just how it comes. And I thought, well, if it's already there, let's update it. So this is just like downloading an app on your phone. It's exactly the same. The apps that are available are controlled by Synology, and this is the Synology store, or what they call the Package Center. These packages do all kinds of cool stuff. They have packages for backing up. They have packages for creating your own actual server. They have packages for creating your own Spotify service. They have packages for antivirus. They have packages for lots of backing up styles. They have a PDF viewer package where you could literally run everything on this. I could render my videos on this rather than take up space resources on my desktop. And even though it'll take longer, it'll be running in the background and I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, let me close this out. And what I want is the DiskStation. So if you notice this little Windows looking icon in the top left, we click on that, that's all of the items. If I right click on Storage Manager, you'll see Add to Desktop. Then click anywhere outside, just not an icon. We'll just click over here. That gets rid of that box. Now we've got something called the Storage Manager. Click once, it's all you need. It's not a double click. And it says the system is healthy. Storage is optimizing in the background. It's only 3.5% done right now. So it's going to take a while. It says it needs another 9.5 hours. But we don't have to wait for it. We've got a volume. And what we need to do is we need to create what's called a share, a file share or folder share in that volume. We need at least one. So let's see. So here's where you can schedule the data scrubbing if you want to do that. And SSD Cache Advisor, which we're not using, global settings, yeah, care about that. But that's all up in there, right? If you want to dig into that. We don't need any of that for today's demonstration. So what I'm going to do, I have to remember the order of events here. Storage pool 1, it's going to be volume 1. And if it's not under create, we're not creating a volume, we're creating a share. So I guess what I need to do is go in, whoops, just close the whole browser. What was that, 192? Yeah, right there. Let me go back and do that again. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Is that what I meant to do? Keep me cited. So some of you ask, if you do that for your clients, how do you log in remotely to their server or their NAS if they need it? I log in using Instant House Call to one of the office desktop computers. And through the desktop computer, I can access their NAS. So I'm always accessing it on the local area network, not through the internet. I know it's a little difficult to picture that in your head maybe, but I am logging in remotely and taking control of one of the office computers. And the office computer then can have access, as it does, to the network attached storage as though I were in the building. That way I don't connect directly to the NAS from outside of the building. I must use one of the computers in the building to connect to the NAS. And that is all encrypted, the remote connection. Let's go to Control Panel, which is what I was trying to do. And we want shared folder. Now we don't have any, so we need to create one. And I just want one big create shared folder. Create shared folder. We'll give it a name. I like to call it public. That's the main folder. You can give it a description if you want to. And if you have multiple volumes, you pick which volume. That's just really a ridiculous pain in the butt that is totally unnecessary. You can enable a recycle bin, but if you do, you better remember to empty it from time to time, or you can turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and enable the recycle bin, hit next. Now it wants to know if we want to enable any security measures. I do not, so I hit next. Remember, we're sticking mostly with defaults. Enable data checksum for advanced data recovery. Yes, even though it might slow the machine down, it's not by much. Enable filing compression would slow it down quite a bit. So I'm not going to do that. It's too much of a cost in performance. Besides, we have a lot of space. Next, here's a summary. You want to create a volume called public with no description on volume 1, and the recycle bin is enabled, and data integrity protection is enabled. There's no quota, there's no file compression. Next, and now it's going to create that big volume, one giant volume. Now, who do we want to give access to that? I want to give read and write access to admins, to Carey, and to a guest. That means anybody on my network, not on my guest network, anybody on my network in my building can access this NAS and the files on it. Now, I don't have to do it this way. I'm just showing you an example without security other than you have to be in the building. It creates that. But here's the problem. The guest account on the Synology is disabled for security reasons. So we've got to go back to users and groups, find the guest account, and it says it's been disabled and deactivated. So we're going to go to Edit, and it says deactivate this account. I'll tell you what, I about pulled my hair out trying to find this on a live video was it a year and a half ago? Uncheck the box. That enables the guest account. It's that easy. All right, so now the guest account, we don't have any two-factor authentication. We're just trying to keep this as though, for security reasons, the admin account is also disabled because that's what hackers will use as to log in. Admin is the default username. It used to be, and Synology says you can't use that username. It's too common, and then all they have to do is guess the password. So by forcing you to create an admin account under a different name other than admin, now the hackers have to know the login name and they have to have the login password, and this makes hacking your account very difficult. In my case, it wouldn't make a difference because they can't get in anyway, unless they were in one of the office computers and went from there to the NAS. All right, let's close that down. Okay, so this should, in theory, be all set up. In theory, let's minimize this. So when I go to this PC, you'll see I've got just a C drive. And what I want to do is I want to add the NAS drive as though it were connected to my computer inside my computer. And I can do this to every computer I have. I'm going to go to Map Network Drive. Click once on that. I want it to be drive letter Z. The reason I pick Z is if I add drives in the future or flash drives, it always takes the next letter. So if I make this drive letter D, that means the flash drive I plug in will be drive letter E. It's crazy. So just go to the end of the alphabet and we'll browse and see if it just shows up. Your network. Do we see it? Network discovery is turned off. So we're not going to be able to see it if we don't have network discovery turned on. Now, if you're not quite sure how to do that, and again, this is all for your safety. It's all turned off by default. Type in network discovery, Wi-Fi settings. We don't want Wi-Fi. We want network and internet. We want Ethernet, because that's how we're connected. We're on a private network. I don't know why it defaulted to public. Configure firewall and security settings. Let's leave that off for a second. Is that going to save? Yeah, I guess it'll save. Do you mean to switch apps? Yes. We're on a private network. Firewall is on. It's in here somewhere. Okay, it says advanced settings, but private network. One of the ways that I typically find this is I will close all this out. And you notice how it's not browsing, right? Because we don't have discovery turned on. And one of the ways I turn it on is just it prompts me. So if I go to this PC and I go down here to network, it says file sharing is turned off. So you click on that box and we just turn it on. That's usually how I do it. I don't have to look for it. And you can see the streaming computer on the network, the administrative laptop on our network, and server is the NAS. So we're seeing the network now. And now it automatically populated here, and we want server, but we don't just want the server, we want the public share, and click OK. So that is // name of the NAS, which is server, / name of the share, which is public. We have one share consuming all the space on one volume on one storage pool. This is as easy as it gets. Reconnect at sign-in, yes. When I hit finish, I now have a letter Z drive on my computer right here that shows 24 terabytes are free. So if I want to take today's video and copy it over here, it's that easy. You just drop and drag it or right click, copy and paste, no differently than you would if the computer, if the storage was inside of your computer. But now everybody on the network can access this, including if you're streaming media files to your television, if you're streaming music to your audio player, or you're traveling. Mitch likes to watch his music and movies that he has on his Synology NAS when he's traveling. He has full access right there on his phone. And then he can connect a phone to the hotel TV and he can watch the stuff on the hotel TV with the right cables. So that's all there is to it. And that's what I was trying to demonstrate before I had the screen share. And when we restart this computer, if we go to shut down and restart, it should reconnect us automatically to our shared folder. That's called having a mapped network drive. Now, you don't have to map it. You can go there manually every time if you want to, but that seems like it'd be a pain in the butt. So as the machine restarts, this is the cube restarting. Once it restarts and connects back to our network, it should automatically connect us back to the NAS. But let's say I take the cube computer over to Studio C, but I don't take the NAS, it will not reconnect. It has to be on the same network. There is a way that you can do it remotely, but I shut that down for security reasons, and it gets more complex than I want to get into on today's demonstration. I'm trying to keep it simple, right? And this is as simple as it gets. The drive is reconnected, and I don't know if there's anything we can copy. We got a bunch of stuff in the downloads directory. Let's just grab all that. Right-click, copy, go to our Z drive, make a new folder. We'll call it stuff. Inside of stuff, right click, paste. And now we're making a duplicate. Look how fast. So anyway, it depends on how big the files are, right? So we're still running at 1 gig on this Synology. We've not upgraded the 10 gig card yet. So that'll be in part 3. But that is your initial setup. It's really that easy, aside from maybe setting up some scheduled tasks. So scheduled tasks I would set up would include data scrubbing, emptying the recycle bin. There's one more. Oh, a drive health check. I would do the regular health check and the extended smart check, and then have those reports emailed to me once a month from every customer of mine that pays me for ongoing support. That way we can see and deal with problems before they happen and avoid crisis and panic and pressure. You can also access the folders and files directly on the NAS through the NAS's operating system. It's just not the way I use it. I always set up the NAS to sort of be an internal hidden hard drive in everybody's computer in the office. So if I save a file here and you're in the office next to me and I say, do me a favor, take a look at that Excel document, tell me if it looks right to you. I'm not copying it on a flash drive and walking it over to them and plugging it in and copying it. Now we have 2 copies. Who knows which is the copy we want to keep? It's not efficient. And if you have 500,000 files, 1 million files, you can see how hairy this is going to get, right? But this is not a backup. This is a file storage device that allows for a single drive failure. If somebody steals this, if there's a fire, a flood, if somebody knocks it off onto the floor, you need a backup. And so a backup would be taking all of this data and copying it onto something else. It could be the cloud. It could be even a little USB laptop drive. Maybe even we have barely enough data. We could put on a flash drive pretty easily. Just plug the flash drive right into the computer and then copy it from the NAS to the flash drive without doing anything differently, as though you were copying the data from one drive to another here on this machine. The fact it's on the network is seamless. It's just drive letter Z. That's it. So unless this is off, I'm trying to think of an example I can give you. Let me go into the back room where you saw the Galaxy book, right? And I'm going to walk away here for a second. And let me go to there's a folder here. And I'm going to copy this folder from this laptop in the other room. Now, the laptop is wireless. And I'm going to copy some of the video projects. So this is a 63 gig transfer wirelessly, running wireless Wi-Fi 7 We're getting a transfer speed of 110 megabytes a second, which is really good. That's equivalent to a wired connection. But even with that, I want you to know it's going to take a while. Even if we put the 10 gig card in the Synology, our wireless is going to be our bottleneck. So when I come back in this room and I come back over to the desktop over here, I want to show you what's happening because you'd never know. Somebody in another office is copying files to the NAS. Well, we're using the NAS at the same time. And we can tell because when we, if we look at the NAS, got to use the right mouse. Check this out. Watch how cool this is. Right click, full screen for me. We're going to go to this PC and we go to Z drive. And the first thing you're going to notice is we have a folder now we did not have a minute ago. If I double click on that folder, you'll see these video files are appearing. And you'll see they're each 2 gig in size. This is one video project. It's 65 gigs. This is how the camera spits them out when I'm recording in the camera. So I obviously have to edit all this, assemble it, stitch it together, and then re-render it out in a more optimized format for YouTube that's not this massive. So the 65 gigs represents the raw files. And you'll see files are being added as the laptop's copying them, and we can play them. As long as the copy's done, we can play these files. So as you can see, this is Subaru Mike, and this should run in VLC. As long as that file's there, we can play it right off the NAS, even though the NAS is still being used in copying more files by the computer in the other room. And you could probably do this with about 20 people simultaneously. The minute you get above 20 people, you probably want something a bit more powerful. But this is good for homes and for small offices. You could, go to 30. I'm not saying you have to stop at 20, but you might start noticing, depending if all the people are working at the same time and they're doing anything data intensive back and forth on the NAS. You'll see these files are appearing as they're being copied over by the laptop. And I've got 65 gigs worth to go. But the laptop can see the files. I can see the files. I can edit, put them back. That's why we don't save anything on the desktops. These do not get backed up in an office. I'm not backing up 20 individual desktops once a month or once a week. You're out of your mind. It's too much data. Where do we put it? So instead, they install programs like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Adobe PDF, and then whatever they do with that, they save onto the Z drive. So if anything happens to their computer, they can go sit at another computer in the office and get right back to work. They're all configured the same for that reason. And then what I do is I'll take all the files off of the NAS and copy it onto a USB attached storage drive. And then I take that USB storage drive home. And that's how we have offsite backups that are secure away from the cloud, and we don't need to worry about encryption and all that other stuff. Again, unless the industry they're in requires it. Okay, back over to camera one. That's it. That's all there is to it. In part 3, we're going to add the 10 gig networking card. We're going to use a TP-Link 10 gig switch, and we're going to add a TP-Link 10 gig networking card inside of the computer. We have to run Cat6a cables or better. Cat6a is preferred. And see how fast a data transfer like this one, 65 gig, would go. Remember, the 65 gig transfer is wireless, so the 10 gig card won't make any difference on a wireless. It's 10 gig wired. Got to be plugged into a 10 gig switch. In your computer or computers that you want to transfer data 8 times, 9 times, maybe even 10 times faster than we're doing it right now, all have to be 10 gig, all have to have Cat6a cables or better. In theory, that's how it should work. And no special configuration. As long as you've got the right hardware, you plug it in, it just works. Any questions? Bajan Guy joins us and says hello. Oystein says, what about notifications? Fair question. We'll get to that in a second. Kelly Stewart wants me to check my phone. Oh, hello, hello. I have an Amazon gift card for $50 from our friend Kelly Stewart. Thank you, Kelly. Another shout out and thank you to Paul Gray and Peter Laycock, our friend Buster. Thanks to Gregory Howard for sharing his video. I was like, why has he got my computer? What did he? It's like he took some video of my computer and he explains it. No, I built one just exactly the same, nearly. Wow, did good work. All right, so turning on notifications is done in the operating system, right? That is something you could choose to do or not do. What notifications you want, how you want them set. I normally use my Gmail account. It's just easier. But if we go back over to, take these off. If we go back over to the desktop, and we're going to need to bring up Synology again. So full screen, close these notifications. And it was what, 192, whatever it was. I think that was it. And I don't have to search for it. You know, it's all cached in there. Now, you do get some notifications when you log in. All right, these are different. But they might be different than what you're, the way I configure it, I don't want all these darn notifications, okay? I just want the important ones. So you would go to the control panel. Everything you're looking for is in the control panel. And whether it's file services, if you want to limit what users can see or access with requiring a login with a name and password to access certain folders, you can set that up here if you want to. I don't do it that way, all right? But you can. If you want to set up external access, I don't set up external access for security reasons. If you want to check if you've got the latest updates, you can do so right here. When it comes to notifications, we scroll down. Is it the info center? Where is it at? Notifications. So under notifications, you've got email, you've got push notifications, webhooks, there are rules and events. So you can set up your own events if you want to be alerted to power loss, all sorts of things like this. I try and keep it simple. Receive notifications directly in your Synology account. Well, this is how they're trying to get you to, just like Microsoft wants you to have a Microsoft account, Synology wants you to have a Synology account, all right? And there are benefits to it, but I don't do that. But you can if you want to. It doesn't cost anything. Receive notifications via email when the system changes or errors occur. That's what I want. And you have to set up your email. And there are Outlook, QQ, or your own custom SMTP server. Remember, you have to essentially have an email outgoing SMTP server to send messages. So it's easy to just tie it into your Gmail account. And if you don't have one, make one. And then you'll sign into your Gmail account. And then you're going to get permissions from Gmail. Once you set that up, then you can adjust your email settings. So we could give the subject. So when this sends me a message, how do I know which one of my customers it is? This IP address could change. This doesn't tell me anything. So for this NAS, when it emails me, I want to know which it is. So I'm going to say this is Synology, since I only have one of these, 923 plus. And that's going to be the subject header on the message, the prefix. And then any message follows that. And then you can test it, see if it's working by sending a test message and then hit apply. Now, obviously, it can't send a test message if we haven't set up an outgoing server. Once you've set that up, you can set up scheduled tasks, automations, and notifications if you want to. You don't have to. Even when you set it up to do this automation, I still recommend you log in regularly, once every month, once every 2 months, and babysit and audit it to make sure that all those tasks are functioning correctly, that you didn't miss a notification, that there's not something happening it didn't tell you about, or that a task stopped working and you didn't notice. Never rely blindly on automation. It will let you down when you need it the most. That's usually when people find out it hasn't been working for a while. So regular babysitting, regular auditing, scheduled tasks are great, don't get me wrong, but it is not an appliance. It's not a toaster. You need to, through updates, things break. Sometimes there's optional updates you might want that don't get installed automatically, like those packages that I have installed. I always want the latest version of the packages. There could be a package installed you no longer want. There could be a task running that isn't running correctly because you changed something or somebody changed something on the NAS. And nobody thought, right? This is how I find out about stuff before it happens, right? Somebody changed something and maybe I didn't have a notification for that for one reason or another. So I log in regularly, once a month typically. I just check it. Just make sure, is the recycle bin been emptied? How much data do we have? How much storage space is left? I try and nip these things in the bud before they become a problem. And there's no replacing a human right now. If you're going to rely on automation, and I cannot emphasize this for the 8th time, you need to audit it on a regular basis, whatever regular is defined by you. For me, it's once every 4 to 8 weeks. I wouldn't go longer than 8 weeks. That makes me nervous. In most cases, all it is peace of mind. I look and everything's correct. But all you do is catch it that one time, and it can save so much anxiety and panic on behalf of the customer calling you on, my system's down, and it's because they never empty the recycle bin, or I don't know, maybe the backup stopped running, right? Stuff like that. You want to know about it soon, not when you need it. Peter with a €1 contribution, joining us from the Netherlands. Thank you, Peter. Oystein says, thank you for your answer. Well, thank you for the question. Peter says, it seems to me that there's good airflow in that PC case. Probably won't get very warm. Well, I don't know what the obsession is with heat. I don't get it. You know, in my career, do you know how many computers I have repaired due to heat issues? Not common. So with regards to how cool a case can run, I don't understand why anybody cares. I really don't get it. Have any of you, just out of curiosity, have any of you ever had a computer that was overheating and you weren't overclocking it, right? And that the way you fixed it was you changed the case it was in. That's the caveat. That the reason it was overheating was because of the case. Has anybody in the chat room ever experienced that in your lifetime? I'm just curious. I never have. I've never seen that. Ramon wants to know if you can do a control history of the files. You can. You absolutely can set up the Synology with the app to back up versioning of files and set how many versions. One of my customers had another tech configure the NAS and set it to 33. Maybe they meant to hit 3 and they hit 33 versions of every file. And the NAS filled up within about a year and a half. It wouldn't work anymore because 1 terabyte of data was duplicated 35 times and used all the space. And it wanted to duplicate more, and it just crashed. You couldn't even access the NAS. It wouldn't even respond to you. So you can do it, but again, it's something you got to keep an eye on. Because now if you have 1 terabyte of data on a 24 terabyte storage device, and you're telling it to save, let's say, 3 versions, well, 3 is minor, then you've got an additional 3 terabytes for a total of 4 terabytes potentially when you have 1 copy, right? If you have 1 copy, it's an additional 1 terabyte maximum. Keeping 2 copies, 2 terabytes, 3 copies, 3 terabytes, 4 copies. So someone set it to keep 33 versions of every file, so 33 times 1 terabyte of actual data. Over time, they ran out of space. They didn't understand why. Even the tech that they hired did not know why. He said, same tech, by the way, same company. That NAS is also bad. So the 2 different NASs, both Synologies, neither one of them was bad. That's the tech saying he doesn't know. When a tech says, and a lot of times when a tech says this has gone bad, that means I don't know how to fix it. So find somebody else. I wish techs didn't do that. But you know, a tech that knows how to use the NAS can tell you if it's actually bad or not. And it's not good to ask Synology. You know, Mitch had his His Synology have a blinking blue light. He couldn't access it anymore. And he contacted Synology and they said that indicates your NAS is dead and you need to replace it. That's your help. So Mitch shared the story with me and I said, why don't you bring it over here? Let's make a video on it. And he did. And we made a video on it. He just bought a $30 generic power brick off of Amazon, replaced his power brick with a compatible one built by a third party to use in a Synology. It's working to this day. Does not need a new one. No data loss. Just the inconvenience of bringing it over here and let somebody who knows what they're doing, who's familiar with the product, diagnose if in fact it's actually dead. So over and over, I keep seeing dead Synology NASs. Mitch is one. That client had two. That's a total of three. That's right off the top of my head. But how many actual dead Synology NASs have we seen? Zero. Absolutely zero. Sometimes the power brick goes bad. Sometimes the drives go bad. We've seen a couple of TerraMasters go bad. And TerraMaster doesn't offer any support other than you have to mail it to China. TerraMaster's cheaper and they have the 2.5 gig networking port pretty much standard, but you are on your own. They do have support, but they don't have any local RMA utility facility here in the United States. So the cost to ship that back to China would exceed the value of what the unit's worth. You might as well just go buy another one. But think of the money you saved. Synology, on the other hand, they do have regular American HQ to handle support like that and to be there for you if you need them. And what I find in this industry is the companies that offer that are the companies you're least likely to need that kind of service from. And TerraMaster's doing the best they can. They're still a young company. They haven't grown to the point where they've got a US headquarters. So there's nowhere to send a NAS for repair other than back to China, which is not ideal. But if you're looking for, super low budget and you'll take care of the support yourself and you know what you're doing, TerraMaster can be a great choice. As a first NAS though, and especially if you're running a business, you don't want to mess around, spend a few extra dollars, get the Synology so you have the peace of mind that if something should happen, they've got your back. That's not a paid endorsement. My customers either use Synology. In fact, we have a couple of rack. These are available in a rack, not the country Iraq, but a network rack, a shelving unit where you slide components into it. So they have this in a package that's long and narrow with the drives are side by side, and it's conformed to that specific size, and it goes into the rack and you screw it down, and it's still a Synology NAS. You access it the same way. It's just the housing they put it in is different. And some of those have really good processors, super high-end processors, 10 gig networking already built in, and they can cost thousands of dollars. The rack itself is probably a couple $100 just to buy an empty rack. And then if that rack is on wheels or it has to be mounted against the wall, it's going to be heavy, so you don't just screw it in with drywall screws. You got to know what you're doing or the whole thing's going to fall off your wall, and $10,000 of networking equipment in the entire company are shut down. So in any event, the point is, my customers, a couple of customers have this in rack form, which again, doesn't make any difference. You still use it the same, log in the same operating system. Some of my customers have a box like this. Two of my customers are now using the QNAP little NVMe NAS. Synology doesn't make one yet. And that's it. That's all I support. I'd say the closest competitor to Synology would be QNAP. And when QNAP sets a price, or for that matter, ASUS store, you will never see that price move. Synology, on the other hand, you will find sales on. We're just about at the end of the video for today, so I'll take any last questions, and then we'll wrap it up. I think you know enough now that if you bought one of these, make sure you get network attached storage or NAS rated hard drives. Seagate Iron Wolf are the only line of Seagate I can think of that are made to be in a NAS, or Western Digital Red are made to be in a NAS. or get your drives directly from Synology, which includes all of that support. So they cost more. If you feel like you're not going to need the support, you don't need the warranty, or you're willing to deal with another company, like if your third-party drives crash, you deal with third-party drive manufacturer on your own. So depending on your level of technical knowledge, you might be more comfortable with one or the other. Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Jose. Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-To says, how do you enable versioning and the history support on a shared Synology folder? A fair question. And off the top of my head, I don't know, but I'm sure we could probably find out in a few seconds. If I go back to the desktop, let's see, where's my desktop? Okay, let me go full screen on, oops. Full screen. Okay. Oops, what am I doing? Close to quitting time. So we're logged into the Synology NAS here, right? And I'm just going to guess, but let's go to the file station. To the file station. That is not what I want. We want to go to control panel under the shared folder. Under this volume, we can empty the recycle bins here. Where is it? This is if you want to use like FTP, you can set up that kind of stuff. If we want to, we can double the speed of the NAS by going down here. You got to make sure that the WS Discovery service is enabled, which started to be defaulted as on, but before it used to be defaulted as off. And when you browse your Windows network, you couldn't find your Synology because the WS Discovery was disabled by default. Now it is enabled by default. So there is something called, we go to advanced settings right here, right? We're under the SMB, advanced settings. There should be an option for SMB multi-channel. I don't see it. It's SMB2. We want SMB3. Enable SMB3 multi-channel. When you enable multi-channel, the system automatically enables synchronous read. Do you want to continue? Yes. So what that does, enabling affects system performance. Yeah, in a good way. Enabling affects system performance if you have simultaneously enabled link. We're not using link aggregation at the same time. Link aggregation is if a bunch of people are trying to access the NAS at the same time. One set of people can get one networking port on the back of the NAS, and another set of people get the other networking port. So they each get their 1 gig data transfer split between the number of people accessing it at the same time. What this is doing is this is going to take the two 1 gig networking ports and treat them as one. So what that means is we take, let me go back to camera 1 here. I realize I've gone off topic, but we'll get back to that in a second. On the back of the NAS, there's 2 networking ports, and you have to have a plus version of Synology. If your Synology model number does not have the plus, then SMB3 multi-channel is not enabled. You can't enable it. Well, there's a way to do it, but you got to hack it. Anyway, for official support, to do it the right way, with the plus model, this is true on the rack systems too. You can take 2 network cards, right? So 2 network ports, run them into your switch as though it were 2 different computers, and it will bind, the Synology will bind them together as one. So now we're going to be running at 2 gig per second. So if multiple people are trying to access the NAS at the same time, moving big files, they're going to divide up 2 gigs amongst them. Link aggregation, on the other hand, only gives you 1 gig per second, maximum. So no matter how many people are connecting, that 1 gig per second, gets divided down. If 5 people are connecting, everybody's getting 20% if it's all divided equally. If we turn on link aggregation, then think of it this way. There's a water fountain against the wall. Remember back in school, they had the bubbler, water fountain? Bunch of kids just coming off of recess, all lining up to use the water fountain. The water pressure isn't going to change, right? The water pressure still comes out the same. So the school decides we're going to add another water fountain right next to it. And the kids now have 2 lines to get through. But each water fountain is distributing the same amount of water, and water pressure is the same. But you can see how if it's just one kid, it doesn't make a difference. But if there's a bunch of people trying to use it at the same time, we've opened up a second lane for them to get into that otherwise it's not being used. That's what SMB multi-channel is. So what I would do is I would take another network cable, which I have right here, plug it in and plug it into the switch. That's all I have to do. No further configuration is necessary. So if this computer has a 2.5 gig network card in it, my file transfer speed should be twice as fast. You want to try it? Watch this. Let me grab a network card. A network cable. Let me grab a network cable. Did I move all the network cables and I don't have any spares? That's such a Carey thing. No, hold on. I've got one here. I have a bunch of 3-foot network cables that I haven't moved over to Studio C yet, thankfully. Brand new bag. I've never opened it. These are the really super thin Ethernet cables. I love these. They do power over Ethernet, no problem. I got one running 35 feet, no problem. 3D Everything with a $10 super chat says thank you. And other contributors. Right on. Thank you, 3D Everything. So first things first. How fast can this computer read from this drive? Remember, we've set it up as though it were installed inside, so we can run Crystal Disk Mark. Let's do that. Look how clever I am. Let's grab, let's see, full screen for me. Let's just close this for right now. And let's grab Crystal Disk Mark. See if we can test the speed to the Z drive. And I only want these numbers here. Is the Z in there? No. Select folder. Do it this way. There's a way. It's taking its time. Okay, we want to go to the server. Then we want to go to public. Click OK. We'll do the top test. Now we're on 1 gigabit per second speeds. So we should see about 110, 120. Let's see what happens. Here we go. There we go, just as I predicted. And it should be about the same read or write, okay? That's enough of that. Let's stop that for a second because I want to move on. Let's go back over to camera 1 here for a moment. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this second network cable, plug it into the second Ethernet port here on the back of the Synology, as though it were a whole nother computer. Well, my 3-foot cable just isn't quite enough. It's like I needed 4 feet. Just plug it in anywhere, into the switch or the back of the router. Now, do I have a 2.5 gig network card in this? I don't know. So I need to check this and see. So let me go back over to our capture, or our desktop, as I should say. I have to see it, so let me make it full screen. Speed is our network. Ethernet. Yeah, 2500 up, 2500 down. So we're at 2.5 gig on the cube. And we were at 1 gig on the NAS. Let's run this now that we've connected the second cable. I've not changed any software settings. All I did is plug in the cable and check the box for SMB3 multi-channel. That's all I've done. No special switch is required. No configuration of the desktop is required. This should double our speed, if not double it, get really darn close. I want to see something bigger than 118. I would like to see at least 200. Oh, what? No. Why are we still stuck at 118? Did I skip a step? Do I need to restart the NAS? Something ain't right. Let's close that out. And let's go to the NAS right quick. Oh, I don't want to search for it. What am I thinking? Okay, let's restart the NAS. Now, I could also hold the power button in on the NAS to force it off if things were locked up. System is oh, I forgot it's doing that. Storage operations are running. Wait for the operation to complete and try again. Was it gonna, clicked okay. What does that mean? Restart anyway? Yeah, I forgot we're verifying the storage pool, which I said was going to take about 18 hours, 18 to 20. It said, last we checked it, it said it needed about nearly 10 hours. So I don't know if it will pause it, allow us to restart and continue, or I don't know what it's doing right now, or if it's actually restarting. I don't know. In the meantime, we don't have to stare at this. Let's go over here and click turn on file versioning. GSM. So the versioning feature in Synology drives allows users to restore files. Okay. Okay, but how do we activate it? Before you begin, make sure to enable version control. Oh, I just heard the Synology beep. I guess it's restarted. Go to in the Synology drive. Oh, so we have to install Synology Drive. That's an app. So if we go over to the Synology NAS, we'll sign in again. You know, I'm just curious now. Without doing anything else, let me minimize this. Go back to crystal disk mark. I just want to know if a reboot solved that. It didn't cache my folder. I got to do it again. At least it came up quicker. Public, that's what I want. And go. I want to see like 230 or, well, I guess maybe 230. Somewhere close to 200, 190, let's say. By adding that second network cable and adding the Synology, the SMB3, no, it's still running at 1 gig. So that means there's something I've missed. So this is a problem on me. It's not a problem with the Synology. I want to be clear on that. Let me go back to the control panel, back under network right here, and then over to shows that LAN 1 and LAN 2 are both connected with their IP addresses. Go to advanced settings. That's what I want. File services, SMB, then advanced. It's a little confused. Don't mind me. And others. Enable SM3 multi-channel. That should be it. We should be up and running. Here's what I'm doing wrong. What am I missing? That's all there should be. Changes were saved. Okay. Let me go back to the chat room, see what you guys are saying. You need to bond the network ports in network. So Mike's unboxing, who asked me how to do it, is now telling me how to do it. Go to control panel, network interface. That's where we were originally, right? Boy, it's hard to see both the chat and the full screen of the desktop, but let me bounce back and forth, and it's just going to look like the desktop to you. But to me, it's a little different. So under network interface, and then is there an option to bond? Manage. Hold on, let me go back to the chat. Let's see. You need to bond in network interface, control panel network. Click create and create bond. Oh, is that the piece I'm missing? I don't recall doing this on the other Synology that I tested, but that was months ago. I can't remember. All right, let me go back full screen over here. Create a bond. Creating a bond will enable, oh, well, there you go. I didn't know that piece. That's news to me. Adaptive load balancing, that's exactly what I want. Next, we're gonna use those. You can add more network, in theory, like if this was a desktop, we could put 3, 4, 5 network cards in there and have them all bonded together. I was not aware of this piece, but yeah, it's gonna use DHCP. Thank you, Mike's Unboxing Reviews. He's taught me 2 things in the last 24 hours, which is nearly a world record. I'm not a quick learner, and I learn best by doing. So what annoys me is watching like a cooking channel and someone says, oh, I've got a half a cup of this and 3/4 a teaspoon of that. It's like they're going way, way too fast. And then, you know, they don't go through the process of cooking it and rotating it or how they address it while the item is cooking. They just have a cooked version of it. And oh, now we put this in the oven at 350 for 17 hours and it looks like this. And then they have another one already prepared. I hate that. I hate it. So for me, it's like, let me be next to you. Let me be beside you. Let me get my hands on it. Let me see what it feels like. Let me see what it looks like in person. And I prefer actual experience over, say, reading instructions, unless absolutely necessary. I like figuring things out. I love to reverse engineer. Okay, so now it looks like under network interface, are we going to have one network card? That makes way more sense. That makes way more sense. Okay, with that done, now what happens? We come down to, well, let's minimize this. Get out of the way. Is that the missing piece? I think so. I believe it is. Come on, baby, let's do it. Let's go. Show me 1.9, 1.8. No. What? Didn't work? Come on now. Something missing. Let me close this and reopen it. I wonder if it's cached. Well, it still shouldn't matter. If it cached the one IP address it had, is that still active when it's bonded? I don't know. Because that's the way it's acting. So let's try selecting a folder again. Server pub. Oops, I didn't mean to hit all. Huh. Should not be this difficult. We're missing a piece. All right, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to close this out for a moment. Let's go back into the Synology notifications. You can set up your notifications, right? It's just taking you into the control panel to the notifications right here to this menu item. And then of course you have all the tabs, which we've already gone over. But anyway, you know, it'll remind you to set those up. Let me go back in the control panel, back under network, back under network interface. And it does show we're bonded. Okay, now that we're bonded, let's go back under file services, SMB settings, advanced, others. Why do I not see SMB3 here? It was in here, right? Where did it go? Goodness. You don't want aggregation on. Remember, I told you that the use case for that. Now, this tells you if you want to access the server, you go / server. So in other words, if you didn't map the drive, you'd come down here and you'd type that name, / server, and press enter. And then there's our shared folder, public. Can I open that up? And then, of course, while we're doing this, remember that wireless laptop in the other room has been copying all of these files, more files, all happening at the same time. Easy to forget or not know. That's why it's so great to have it, so multiple people can use it, or you can have multiple computers doing things at the same time instead of moving files back and forth and walking between them. And of course, you know, enabling outside access. But let me put this, let's play. I just want to try one more time, and then I want to show you Synology Drive. Come up here, disk mark 64. It should all be cached. Let's see. Okay, it's preparing the read. We're looking right up here at the top of what it's doing. After read test 105, we should start seeing numbers. It's not changing. We're still stuck at 1 gig for some reason. I don't know why. But let's move on. I'll have to study this a little more. There's something I'm missing. Let's go to the package center, and there you'll find Synology Drive. Now, you don't have to search through all the apps, okay? These are the apps that are installed by default. So if there's any updates for these, I will keep them. We go to all packages and sort it by name. You can sort it by recently popular. See what other people are doing. So Synology Drive Server, I think is what we want. Now you can come up here and simply type in Synology and just see every app with the word Synology on it. Enter. Synology application, Synology chat server, contacts, directory server, drive server. I think we want the Synology Drive server. And you're going to install it just like on your phone. And it's going to download the app and install it. Now remember, with the laptop, wireless laptop copying files to this, it's authentic, it's verifying the storage pool, and we're doing this all at the same time. And you don't notice any slowdown, do you? Everything seems like nobody else is using it. You've got to hammer pretty hard on it simultaneously from multiple users to really feel like it's slowing down. And you can imagine when we had the 10 gig network card, when we're copying from the laptop, it's just going to happen faster, but we're still probably not going to notice much. Unless, of course, we were also doing the same thing at the same time. Then we might notice a slowdown. But we can continue to work while it's happening. It's not like everything has to stop. We can move on to other things, minimize that window, and then let it complete. So depending on how important your time is and how much money you've got to spend, you can upgrade to 10 gig on this relatively inexpensively. See here. Mark Gaines sent $24.97 via PayPal. He says it's for Studio C. Thank you, Mark. Mark joining us, of course, from Northern Ireland. And a shout out once again to our friend Paul Gray for his generosity out there in Australia, our friend Buster, Oystein, and Frankie B. Oh, Mike mentions that when I was setting up the bond, that I should have selected link aggregation instead of load balancing. So load balancing means that the system's going to automatically give people a fair amount of data depending on, it divides it equally, more or less, balances the load that's put on it. One user, in theory, shouldn't get any more bandwidth than somebody else, but load balancing decides all that on its own. Whatever it thinks is the most efficient way to distribute what's available to multiple people who want it at the same time. And that regards network performance. So let's go back and try, let me go to full screen once more. And with Synology Drive installed, should be in here now. Synology as a new install package would be better after you refresh the web page. Would you like to refresh it? Yes. Okay, so reloads. Synology Drive. Okay, so here in Synology Drive, this is where my understanding is, in the team folder. Select the team folder in which you want to edit historical versions. Click Settings and click Versioning. We haven't set up a team folder. I guess we have to set up a team folder first. I don't see settings. No team folder. Please go to DSM Admin Console to enable your team folders. I've never done this before. So, the information's there. And that's my understanding. That's how you enable versioning. and it sort of locks off or blocks off a certain amount of your storage, makes it unavailable and hidden. Let me tell you something, it's a pain in the butt to find it and delete it. You basically have to use Synology's operating system to do that. I've tried taking the drives out and manually trying to find those hidden directories, and I couldn't find them. I don't know how they did it. But then you go into Synology software and you uninstall the Synology drive, and suddenly all that free space comes back that was completely hidden away from you. But anyway, that's Synology drive, and it's used for when you want to collaborate with other people and share files and folders, and then of course versioning, since other people might change it in a way that you don't like, or the other way around. You can go back to the previous version, and you can set how many versions you want. But when it comes to the bond, network bond, let's go back to the control panel. Let's go back to network. Let's go back to the interface. Let's delete this. Let's just, can we edit it, or can we manage? Just the service order. Is there a way to change, edit it, maybe? We'll select the second choice here, which is link aggregation. But I think you need link aggregation on the switch. Let's try it and see what happens. I don't know. Won't hurt anything. So that's applying the change. Network status, full duplex, failed to establish. Yeah, because you need a switch that supports link aggregation, which is different from SMB3. And we're not going to do any sort of link aggregation. Active standby would mean it will provide a failover. So if one network cable or connection fails on LAN port 1, then LAN port 2 becomes active like a spare tire. I think we want adaptive load balancing. Does not require any special network switch. I will tell you, when I've done this before, I did not bond the cards together. What I did is simply enabled SMB3. I'm going to delete this. So what that's doing is it's removing the bonding. That's all I'm doing. So those two network cards will be independent. Think of it like RAID for a network card. Now, I think bonding the cards is different from SMB3, because once we bonded them, you notice our option for SMB3 went away. And in my experience, all I've had to do in the past is check that box and immediately got double the speed. So I'm wondering what I am doing differently today, or if there's a step I am forgetting. But the bottom line here is that you can use both network cards on any Synology device that has the plus symbol by enabling SMB3 multi-channel. That's all it should take. No special switches required, no special cabling is required, and no other configuration is required. Well, now that it's reset that, we have a separate LAN 1 and LAN 2. So I suspect now if I go to our file services and go to SMB, advanced settings, and then over to others, we should have SMB multi-channel as an option. Right here, enable SMB multi-channel. See, that's third from the bottom, right? When you enable it, the system automatically enables asynchronous read. Oh, okay, fair enough. Save that. Enabling this may affect system performance. Yeah, that's why I'm doing it. Apply, okay. And then we'll go back to the smart. And one more time, one last time. Otherwise, I'll do this off camera and try and figure out what I'm missing here. This is a 2.5 gig switch. I'm connected at 2.5 gig down here. Right? Connection is 2.5 gig. And our speeds still at 1 gig speeds. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure that out. That is very puzzling. I appreciate the feedback, Mike, but I don't think I've just never bonded the two cards together before. All I had to do was check that little box. I am missing a piece. It's usually, if you're working harder than you should, you're probably doing it wrong. But these NASs, and I think what we can take away from this is, as you can imagine, you could become an expert in this and sell these to customers and support, because it's not that intuitive when you're not familiar with how do you set up to share your audio? How do you set up, Plex? How do you set up a video surveillance server? How do you set up file versioning? How do you set up file shares? Can you encrypt them? Can you password protect it? Yes, 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 yes. Well, what else can you do? It goes on and on and on. It's like asking me what apps you can download for your phone. It goes on and on and on, and it covers several different ways of, like, backup. There must be 8 different apps for ways of backing up your Synology. You could back it up to another Synology that's somewhere else, and it just set it to schedule it overnight. As long as you have the bandwidth, depending on how much data you're going to be moving. Cox, for example, once you exceed 1.25 terabytes in 30 days, you get charged a fee for how many terabyte or gigabytes you use after that. On the other hand, you may not be moving that much data, and you've got to have a fast enough connection. One of my customers, we couldn't do this. We couldn't back up a Synology to another Synology because they only had DSL with a 1.5 megabit per second upload speed. It's like, there's no way. There's just no way. You're creating too much data. It can't transfer all that overnight. So that wasn't an option for us. So when I say you need the bandwidth, I'm referring to your internet service provider, the speed and the capacity of what you can transfer in 30 days. But that's an option. And how do you set it up? Well, we could make a whole video just on that one app. We can make a whole video basically on each of those apps. I'm not going to, but we could. So I was just trying to keep it simple and answer some questions, and it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be, but it's my lack of familiarity. Once I've done it a few times, I'll say, oh, that's easy. You just go here and here. Just like I showed you earlier, how you share the file, how you set this up. I've done this 4 or 5 dozen times over the years. So I don't remember exactly, but and then how you did it in Windows 10 is mostly the same of how you do it in Windows 11. Mostly the same. So for me, it's just refamiliarizing myself with the process. When setting up Synology Drive, all I've ever done in my career is take it off. We don't do file versioning on our Synologies. We just do regular backups. And then the regular backups usually go to multiple backups, and that's our file versioning. If we have to go back 3 backups to get that file, we can, rather than eat up all the space with file versioning getting out of control. Just had too many problems with it. And the fact that Synology hides that data area, you cannot find it. So the only way to free those drives up without completely bulk erasing them is to use the Synology software, the DSM, to erase and to uninstall Synology. When it does that, my customer's Synology was full. They only had 1 terabyte of data on a 30 terabyte drive. And I erased all the spare stuff. I emptied the recycle bin, all that stuff. And it still said that I was using 29 terabytes. Where is it? I can't find it. It doesn't exist. So a little research, it's like, well, they must be using Synology Drive, and that's all file versioning. So I go into the Synology Drive app, which is the first time I've ever been in it for this customer, trying to figure out, is this what the problem is? I don't even know what Synology Drive is at that time. And it's telling me this folder and how much data it's got in it. And I'm like, okay, let me in the folder. Well, you got to go into the Teams part. And I'm like, okay, no, never mind. Just delete it. Well, you can delete it, but it's still reserving that space. Okay. It's going to take forever to delete 29 terabytes. It's going to take like 3 hours. So I'm like, just disable, uninstall Synology Drive. Just uninstall it. Oh, if you do this, you're going to lose all your data, all your versioning. Yeah. And then that took a little while. And then I had 29 terabytes free, which when I looked on the folder, it still looked the same. Only the free space went from 0 to 29 terabytes. And all the customer's original non-version, original data, 1 terabyte remained. Because I wanted to get rid of it without deleting the customer's actual wanted data. That's why I say I could make a whole video on that. Mike's Unboxing Review says we get a bit rusty at times. Well, you got to remember, we're dealing with NASs, and we're dealing with switches and routers and Wi-Fi and motherboards and CPUs and different DDR4, DDR5. We're dealing with SSD Gen 1, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5. We're dealing with RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5. How we're setting up the RAID, how we're setting up the network. And then I've got all the camera equipment that you do too, Mike, right? So you got to figure out your bit rate. And well, once you get that set up, you're locked in. But the point is, it piles up. So as we bring in products for review, mini PCs, external graphics card docks, which I still have to get to, when we talk about mesh networking, when we talk about setting up a RAID array, this all gets jammed into my little tiny brain. And I got to turn off versioning because I think it's full. So whatever's on top is usually the most recent thing I've done. And then if I haven't done it in a while, it moves down and then it gets, it's like, where was that checkbox? You know, what am I missing? And it's nothing a Google search can't fix, you know. There's some piece I'm missing here. I don't understand why. It baffles me because that's all I should have had to have done. That's all I've done in the past, as far as I remember. Well, I guess he asked a good question then. Mike's Unboxing says we have some new ASUS Store NAS devices to review, and I am a Synology user. Lots of stuff to relearn again. This ASUS, you know, they have their own interface. It's very similar, a little bit different. I have an ASUS Flash Store 6 that I use as my personal NAS. It is a little bit wonky until the most recent firmware update. Now it seems solid as a rock. And it's got two 2.5 gig network ports, and I should be able to SMB3 those as well. Well, SMB3 multi-channel, and then do the data transfer, and that should work. Let me do a quick search. I mean, we've gone way over today, but these are our last days in Studio B, so let's savor them. Let me look up how I do it on the streamer. I want to do it on he is walking by my okay. What I'm doing. I have to go back to this computer. Hold on, I don't know where I am. Let me go back to OBS, and we're going to turn the desktop back on. Maybe in Studio C, Mara can be the producer and do all this for me. I have to teach her. I think she kind of knows anyway. Let's go back to the desktop, and I have to go full screen so I can see it. All right, now. Up here, and we'll just type in how to SMB3 Synology. Ensure you have multiple network cables. We do. Each NIC must have its own IP. It does. Select file services, then SMB, and then advanced. Enable SMB. Oh, that's it. That's all I've done. This is Space Rex. He does great videos on NASs. So he talks a little quickly, but I guess you could turn closed captioning on it. It's helpful. I think he's got an American Southern accent combined with talking quickly, which sometimes can be a little bit hard to understand. But he's overall, he's really, really good. So if you're interested in this, Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I'm not going to play his whole video and get a copyright strike, but hopefully he appreciates the attention. But there you have online multiple how-tos for any of the Synology apps. That's what I'm trying to get to. So if you have a particular interest in surveillance licenses, if you have an interest in setting up backups, if you have an interest in setting up SMB multi-channel. But SMB multi-channel should just be what we did. It's exactly what we did. They've cited some references here where they're getting their information. Explains what it is and how it's different from link aggregation, which we talked about, the requirements of your Synology to be able to do this. And it says each NIC must have its own IP address, which ours do. File and services, SMB. Then he's going to advanced settings and then others. And then says enable asynchronous read, which happens automatically when you enable SMB3. SMB service will restart and these settings are applied. His speed is now 270, 220. That's what I wanted to see. That's all he did. You did not have to bond the network cards together. That's link aggregation or load balancing. So that's not, we're trying to achieve just faster throughput. And so as far as I know, I did it right. I don't know why it's not taking it like it's not applying it correctly. Check. Third from the bottom. Enable SMB. And enable asynchronous read. We're good. That should be it. So the only other thing I can think of is restart the cube or reset the network on the cube. Let's just restart it. In case you're curious how fast the cube is, that P41 from SK Hynix is a pretty fast NVMe drive. Price-wise, it's not the cheapest. It's also not the most expensive. SK Hynix bought Intel's SSD division. So many of those employees and all the products are now SK Hynix, and they call that line Solidigm, SOLIDGM, That's all the Intel stuff that now SK Hynix owns. Intel's out of that business model. They don't have an NVMe division anymore. Okay, there's our reboot. Let's try making sure we can reconnect to the NAS. And we do. And we'll bring up Crystal Disk Mark here, 64-bit. Yes. Run the test. Remember, we're on the select folder version. Come on now. Come on. Show me 220. Show me 220. Urgh. What am I missing? All right, well, I'll figure this out off camera. Stuff like that. If you're not under the pressure of a customer saying, you got to get this working, this can be kind of fun. But if you have other customers waiting to get another job to get to, this should be a 5-minute job. And I should be able to do this remotely. Lugrini said, error said no settings were changed. That's right, because I was just verifying the settings were the correct ones. That's fine. Mara posts the channel email if you guys want to email us, showcasecreate@gmail.com. I guess, I don't know. Did Mike go to bed? He stayed up late. Again, Mike's unboxing and reviews. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hey, Mitch Morrison joins us. There he is. Hey, Mitch. Peter with another €1 contribution. I don't know if that's a duplicate or if I've repeated myself, but thank you, Peter. And of course, Mark Gaines and our friend Buster and Frankie B and Oystein. You guys, all of the members in green, you guys rock. Everybody being friendly in the chat. You guys rock too. It's really weird that we live in a time where you have to ask people to be friendly. You think that would be the default? All right, so we have two 1 gigabit network cables. They are plugged in to a 2.5 gig network switch, which should easily handle this. Ooh, the switch gets pretty warm. The switch is also made by ASUS. And then we've got a regular network cable plugged into a 2.5 gig on the back of the motherboard. So everything looks correct to me. I don't understand why my speed hasn't doubled. So that'll give me something to play with. Might be a little boring to watch me learn it, but that's my learning process. And then once I know it, it usually sticks. The longer it takes me to learn something, the more I remember it later. If I'm able to figure out something quickly, it likely won't retain. And the next time I see it, I can't remember how I fixed it because it was so easy. What did I do? That was so easy. So my brain didn't take the time to file that away correctly for future reference. It just says, you'll figure it out. That was easy. You don't need to remember it. And then I forget it. So there's something easy I'm missing here. That's all I know. As far as I know, that should have worked. So I got to figure out what I'm missing. Yeah, Mike's unboxing review is still with us. It's nearly midnight at his time. It's only 3:45 p.m. here in Phoenix right now. So he's about 8 hours ahead of us here in the UK. All right. Any final questions, or are there questions you asked earlier that I missed? This is the time to ask because we will wrap this up. You get 3 hours instead of 2. But everybody's been great, and I really appreciate that. One of the things that the chat room can do is be disruptive, and you guys have not been. Nobody has been disrupted. I appreciate it, or disruptive. And that just shows the power of this community, that we care for it and we want to see it grow and we want to sustain it. And we do so through your kindness and your support, not only of me, but to each other. It's the only way we grow. Anything other than that is diminishing us back into primitive times. And I'd rather not go that way. Are we up for a take 3? Well, no, take 2, the reason for take 2 was how to set up the NAS and share the folder. Because when I did it and I was using the streaming PC, you guys weren't seeing the other windows I was opening. It only captured the main window. All of the File Explorer windows and all that stuff, I was talking and walking through it, but you guys couldn't see it. When it comes to setting up SMB3 multi-channel, that was never what this series was about. It's a diversion away from answering a question in the chat, and not an intended chapter of this video. I thought it would be really easy to demonstrate it. So I thought, yeah, I'll take that question. I could have just said, you turn SMB3 on right here and then left it at that. But I wanted to demonstrate it, verify it was working, and then that's where we got hung up. But it is a diversion away from the series, which is about primarily, it's about how fast can we get this to go with regards to a 10 gig network card, which means we have to have a 10 gig network card in another computer and a 10 gig switch. You're only going to have one. You won't be using SMB3 with it. I wonder if you could, though. Could you use both 1 gig ports and the 10 gig port together in SMB3? But then how would you use it if you don't have anything faster than a 10 gig network card anyway? Then you start reaching the limits of what the NAS can do. I don't know. That's the stuff we'll explore in take part 3. This is part 1, take 2, because the end of that, where I showed the configuration, you guys could hear me, but you couldn't see what I was doing. Bajan guy wants to see the LEDs. Yeah, we can turn the lights off, sure. It's messing with my focus. You know, this keyboard I use has LEDs on it too. I can remember how to turn them on. X, bringing up menu options in OBS. I'm trying to figure out which I can't remember. Strange. I guess I'm losing everything. I'm getting senile. I cannot remember. I cannot remember how to do that. Oh, is it the wrong button? Am I hitting the wrong button? No, that's not working. Weird. There's a combination of keys I have to hit to get the LEDs. I believe this does all kinds of weird LED stuff. But it's a function key, and I know that can control the brightness. Yeah, I don't know which button it is. I am confused. Unless I'm wrong and this doesn't do RGB. Maybe it's just white. Anyway, that's your light show. You can see our Synology is busy over here doing our verification, but that shouldn't, I don't believe that would be impacting our network speed. Should be able to handle that simultaneously. So anyway, there you go. Let's see if there's any questions I can answer that won't take me half an hour to answer. That's all right. Something I need to learn. Lou Greeny says that cube build is still rocking it. Yeah, imagine when I finish it. Imagine when I put the rest of the panels on with the cable management. Let's see. There he needs his 3D glasses. Central or Carey, that cube is totally RGB. It is. I don't use it. It's not for me. It's just something I built for the channel to attract viewers, right? People are interested in RGB. Home users, not business users generally. And if I need to pander or appeal to those viewers from time to time, I don't mind. Just have nothing to do with it. Like, what do I do with it now? That's why it hasn't been done. No different than the streamer. That just streams. I don't use it for anything else. I have a regular old laptop. There's no flash, no RGB. It's very subtle. It's a Galaxy Book 3 fully loaded to the teeth, and that thing is a monster, but it doesn't need to boast about it. It's just a regular old laptop until you start using it and see how fast it is. I can video edit on it, do everything I need. I don't need all the lights, but I won't say no, I'm not going to build a computer with lights. I don't want one personally, but I'll build one if that's what viewers want. So sometimes people don't get that. They're like, oh, you're a hypocrite. No, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm a business person. If somebody wants to pay for that, if that'll earn me money, I'll do it. Doesn't mean I'm doing it for me as far as a computer. Nothing wrong with having a computer like this if you have the desk space for it and you're the kind of person that likes to boast and brag, you like to show off. Go ahead. I'm not that kind of person. I don't drive around in a fancy car. I don't wear fancy clothes. Nothing about me is fancy. The best utensils I have for eating are my 2 hands, and my napkin is my sleeve. That's, you put me in a fine dining place where somebody's coming by with a crumb, I said crumb comb, and they're scraping the crumbs off the table every 5 minutes. I'm so uncomfortable with that. They want to, bring you everything. Just tell me where it is. I'll go up and get it. I'm not disabled. I can move. No, we do that for you here. We take care of you. Oh, I don't like that. Okay. Mike's Unboxing, finally going to bed there. Again, check out Mike's Unboxing. He's got some short videos. So if you want to just get a taste of some of the work he's done, from computer builds to tech reviews, very similar in subject matter as what we do here. He does it his way. So be sure and check out his channel. And if you like it, give him a subscribe. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. Having another content creator here that does something very similar. It's see that every day. We certainly appreciate it. Now, I'm going to turn this lighting off because I don't like it. Function. Okay, just dim it to nothing. That's how I turn it off. Yeah, we're 5 minutes away from a 3-hour broadcast, so I guess I'll wrap it up. I don't see any other questions. I will figure out what's going on here. There's no special switch that's needed. Obviously, if you have a 1 gig card from the other computer or wireless, you're going to be stuck at that speed. But when we're running 2 1 gigs at the same time in SMB3 multi-channel, as far as I know, there's no other change you need to make. As soon as we connect to the NAS, we should be able to run at that speed. So I don't know if we have a network caching issue where I've got to clear out the SMB cache on the machine, or if there's a piece I'm missing. I do not have to enable SMB3 on the machine here, just over here. Everything else should happen automatically. The reason why I even demonstrated is because of how easy it is. So you can imagine how flummoxed I am that it's not working, and it appears everything is set correctly. There's something I'm missing, but it's not the cables, it's not the switch, it's not the computer. Some piece on this end that I am missing, and it might do with the network caching. It might need to have the cache flushed, flush the DNS. Maybe, I don't know. Or because it's verifying in the background, not sure. But I will figure it out, and then I'll share that with you. It'll be a quick little side thing on the next part of the video where we're testing the networking, because you know what? That's on par with the subject matter of the 10 gig. To do the 10 gig real quick, I'll show you again. We've got a few parts that we had to purchase. Well, some of the parts Synology sent to us for review, but all of this I need to use 10 gig, okay? This is the card that goes in the NAS. That's going to go inside. I'll show you how to do that on the next video. this is the card that's got to go into one of my computers. It could be this one. Just plug it in, and then we'll plug our network into this one instead of the built-in one on the motherboard. That's it. This is $100. That's $100. But if it's all plugged into a 2.5 gig switch, it's still only going to run 2.5 gig max. So we have to replace it with a 10 gig switch. These are finally getting to be affordable. It's around $150, and you can plug up to 5 ports in. So one of these ports could be my router that runs at 2.5. Actually, my router does have a 10 gig as well, but regardless, anything that's plugged into here can talk to each other at 10 as long as they all have 10 gig networking cards, and our network cables are Cat 6A or better. So Cat 6A, basically. And then we can run our file test and see how much faster. Because remember, about 118 is what we've been getting. And that'll be the next part of the video that we cover is, okay, so how much difference does it actually make in reality? If we run it at 10 gig, if we run it at 5 gig, if we run it at 2.5 gig, we've already run it at 1 gig. We know what to expect. Once you start mixing wireless into this, forget it. This all has to be wired that we're talking about for this kind of transfer speed. Wireless is pretty good though, but none of this stuff that we've purchased benefits our wireless speed. Our wireless speed on Wi-Fi 7 is nearly identical to a wired 1 gig connection. That's incredible to me. But now everything's going 2.5 gig, and so I'm a little disappointed that Synology didn't give us 2.5 gig ports. Because even when we put SMB multi-channel 3 on these, they're still going to run at 2, not 2.5. And yet all their competitors all are using 2.5 and have been for over a year. Hopefully we'll see some new products from Synology soon, although this product is brand new. They have some more new product coming out, and I hope they adapt that just to be competitive in the market. In the meantime, this is an option you can take advantage of. I'm going to try this one more time because I don't know. This should work. I don't know what I'm missing here. Yeah, still not. Still running at 1 gig. So yeah, I'll figure it out off camera because we are just now hitting 4 o'clock. I think that's exactly a 3-hour broadcast. We'll wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for your kindness and your support in joining us in the chat today. Appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate the consideration and respect that we all give each other. And certainly our paying members, we appreciate you guys for enabling us to do a lot of the videos we do. Today's video is a combination where Synology sent us this unit for free along with their drives and the 10 gig card. And then we spent our money to get the 10 gig network switch and the 10 gig network card, about $250. All right. So without your contributions, this is where this video would end. We'd have no way to really test it. We could show you how to put the 10 gig card in, but we'd have no way to demonstrate it. Without you guys, there wouldn't be possible. So I appreciate you so much for enabling us to do this, because remember, this is just one video. It's not like I only make one video a month. So you can see how the expense of making these videos is, well, try it sometime. I can tell you, by making 3 videos a week and providing all the content and demonstrations, and let me know how YouTube revenue pays you for what it's costing you to make it. But in the meantime, without the members, we wouldn't have this. Thank you to Acronis and RoboForm as well, offering you guys 30% off their product, as well as VIP CDK deals. They hopefully will have PayPal back soon for Windows and Microsoft Office licenses. In the meantime, I'll keep you updated on that. Buster, Oystein, Frankie B, Mark Gaines, Luke Greenia, Paul Gray, Gregory Howard, a few others. Just can't thank you guys enough for your support. I was just rechecking email here. Kelly Stewart, of course, can't forget Kelly. I hope I got everybody. I hate when I leave somebody out. I feel really bad about it. So I hope I got everybody with your generous contributions, your gift cards. Thank you so, so much for joining us. I will see you all very, very soon as I continue to break down Studio B and you see us start dwindling, and then hopefully be over at Studio C next week, I hope, and then it'll be growing. So yeah, we're bringing this down to the basics, and then we got to start with basics and expand out. So it's going to be a little bit rough. We're going to get there. It just takes time. In the meantime, it was a good excuse to get the old cube out and get it updated, and that obviously has to get moved over very carefully. Studio C. Maybe I'll do that tonight. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Mara, of course, for all the work that she does behind the scenes. All the video notes, thumbnails, and remember the email address if you want to contact us for any reason is Showcase Create. Is that what it is? Mara will put it in the chat room one last time here, and you can reach out to us anytime. Oh, did Frankie B stop in? Hey, Frankie, good to see you. We're just saying goodbye. Thank you, of course, for all of your generosity as well. And I'm still waiting. Mara's going to put it in there. Anyway, use that email address. You can reach out to us anytime. Thank you for watching. There it is, showcasecreate@gmail.com. Thank you, Mara. I'll see you all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.